Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and greetings of the day from wherever you're dialing in, whatever time zone you're dialing in. We are really excited today. We have about 25 countries represented on this call today from SSGSA well-wishers, families, scholars, and guests. My name is Rehan Bakri, and on behalf of the Syed Global Scholar Award family, or SSGSA, it is my pleasure and privilege to welcome you to the 2020 SSGSA Annual Convention. It is a matter of great pride for us that in this year 2020 that has been challenging for many of us, we have, a lot of us have had family, friends, colleagues go through some very difficult times. But what better way to end this year but with some optimism, but with some inspiration and with some celebration, whether it's through science, whether it's through education, or whether it's through celebrating the successes of our students. Today, we have joined together to celebrate the accomplishments of our SSGSA scholars, as well as welcome the incoming class of 2020. And there is one thread that really connects us all today, that people who are on the call. And that is that we are either members of the AMU fraternity, alumni, or well-wishers. So if you go to the next slide, please. Let me start with some words from the Holy Quran that are also represented on the AMU logo. Chapter 96, Ayat 5, Surah Al-Alaq has an ayat that has been carried forward in the AMU logo, and I recite, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, khalaqal insana min alaq. Iqra wa rabbukal akram, alladhi allama bil qalam, allamal insana ma lam ya'lam. And I translate, read in the name of your Lord, who created man from a clot. Read, for your Lord is most generous, who taught by means of the pen, taught man what he did not know. And really, there could not have been a more appropriate ayat to carry on our AMU logo, the logo of Aligarh Muslim University, because that so appropriately captures the spirit of the Aligarh movement, and the vision of Sir Syed truly encapsulates that. And we at SSGSA aspire to continue that movement, to continue that vision in our own small way. If you move to the next slide, what I'd like to do is give you a very quick overview of what we have in store for you today. We have a very exciting lineup. We're very fortunate to have some tremendous speakers with us today, both external guests as well as some really, really fascinating stories from our SSGSA scholars. We will start with a State of the Union where Dr. Saif Sheikh and Mr. Wasiqul Islam, members of the Executive Committee, are going to give you a little overview of what SSGSA is, what we do, and why we do what we do. We are fortunate to have Professor Abhijit Banerjee, a 2019 Nobel Laureate in Economics, joining us today, who is going to speak to us about transforming the world through scholarly pursuit, followed by the Honorable Vice Chancellor of AMU, Professor Tariq Mansoor Sahab, who will speak to us on contribution of alumni organizations to the vision of Sir Syed. We will also have Dr. Frank Islam, a noted philanthropist and entrepreneur, who is going to release our 2020 annual newsletter and make some special remarks to inspire students. And finally, last but not the least, we have a stellar keynote address lined up with Ms. Swara Bhaskar, artist and activist, who is going to speak to us on the emerging role of students in shaping the new world order. And we'll wrap this up with a special tribute to AMU with our own version of the Tarana. Now, I do want to highlight that this is really a very tight agenda and a very tight program, and we really hope that you can continue to stay engaged. This will be streaming live across the globe on YouTube and Facebook as well as we have close to 300 people already on this call and rapidly climbing. We expect that to go up. So Stay engaged. If you have any questions, feel free to engage with us on social media. Use the hashtag SSGSA on Twitter and send us any questions you have. With that, I'm going to invite one of our co-founders and members of the executive committee, Dr. Saif Sheikh Saab, to tell us about SSGSA and give its State of the Union address. Saif bhai?
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Rehan Bakri, for my introduction. Greetings and salams to everyone. I want to thank the presence of our esteemed speakers today, Nobel laureate and Professor Abhijit Banerjee, award-winning actress and activist Ms. Swara Bhaskar, Honorable Vice Chancellor Tariq Mansoor, and Philanthropist Dr. Frank Islam. Before we begin, I would like to briefly say a few words about our founder of Aligarh Muslim University, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. In 19th century, when very little emphasis was on modern education, Sir Syed felt that education is the key to the success for any society. He was one of the greatest social reformers and a great national builder of modern India. After starting many schools, in 1875, he established Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College at Aligarh. That became Aligarh Muslim University in 1920 and completed 100 years of its existence this year. It is Sir Syed who said, and I quote, "It is the categorical verdict of all the nations and great seers of the world that national progress depends on education and training." Education is indeed critical for the success of every human being. It transforms the young mind to develop self-esteem.
I think Saif bhai may have dropped out. His connection might be a problem. The challenges of being in a virtual world. Yeah. But we have many other guests joining. I see a lot of our esteemed panelists have joined. So while Saif bhai rejoins, maybe we can continue that, and if Saif bhai is able to join, we will hand it back to him. But really, I think the intent of this, all that we are doing today is trying to see what Sir Syed's vision was and see how we can continue to build on that. And if you move to the next slide. We wanted to share with you some of the origins of SSGSA, how SSGSA came to be. And this is really important because from a personal story, personal side, we need to go back to the origins to really decide, how we have to really benchmark how we have come together over these years to make a mark. And it was starting with our days in AMU when we were all students back on the campus. We had very little information on what our next steps should be, what we should be doing after we finish graduation, after we finish our undergrad. There was little information available. For those it was available, they did not have the right set of mentors. They did not have the right resources or channels to go and find more about how to pursue those dreams. And so when I came to the US, I had the good fortune of connecting with some like-minded alumni like Dr. Saif Sheikh, Mr. Ali Rizvi, like Dr. Shaida Andrabi. And we started talking about, can we do something to really get the students who are at AMU the information and the resources that we didn't have when we started off looking at higher education abroad. And at that point, I was connected with Saif bhai. And so we started off about 14 years ago as the Sir Syed Excellence in Science Award, or SSGSA, CESA, as we called it. It was really because we had limited resources. We started to focus on science. And as we grew, we realized that this information mismatch, this desire to pursue higher education, these deep dreams were not limited only to science, technology, engineering, and medicine students. students from the arts faculty, students from the commerce faculty, management faculty, law, journalism. All of these students had dreams and they all deserved to be supported. So we expanded our areas of education and our focus and renamed the Sir Syed Excellence in Science Award to the Sir Syed Global Scholar Award, thereby expanding our scope. If you move to the next slide. I think what we want to tell you here is a little bit of why we do what we do. And one of the things you'll realize is, when we talk about Sir Syed and his dreams and his mission and how he accomplished the establishment of the great institution of Aligarh Muslim University, we realize that there's a lot of organizations that do ground up work, bottoms up work at the grassroots. They support primary education, they support education for undergraduate students through going through college, they support girls' education at every level, at the secondary school level. And they're all really, really important because they all play a part in getting the students the right educational foundation and the right base. However, if you click once, when resources are limited, a bottoms-up approach may take time. When we started off, we had limited resources. We had few people, we had few funding sources. And so we decided to focus on a more top-down approach. We decided to focus on the layer of students that had already come through the system and had already leveraged the fantastic and the incredible work that all these other organizations were doing. And we wanted to bring them up and then continue to help them and just lend a helping hand at that layer, those meritorious students who had already completed undergrad, who were on the verge of breaking through, but just limited because they didn't have the right resources, giving them that last bridge to maximize their full potential. That is what we wanted to do. And that is why what makes SSGSA such a unique approach to supporting students. If you go to the next slide, please. I want to tell you a little bit about what the SSGSA model is and how we support scholars. So we really, if you break it out into 4 large buckets, there are really 4 major areas where we focus on. The first and foremost is one-on-one mentoring. And this, in many ways, is probably more important than the financial assistance itself, which is our second pillar. But one-on-one mentoring is something that year after year, student after student, what we have heard is, पैसा कहीं से इंतजाम हो भी जाए, लेकिन जो mentorship SSGSA से मिलती है students को, वो mentorship, that is priceless for many of those students. And that is something that you will hear in the journeys of many of our scholars today. Their discipline that help to prepare them personalized plan, that help with tracking their monthly progress, that help them with deciding what universities to apply for. How do you frame your story and your personal essay into the most positive, most strongest step forward in your statement of purpose, etc. We help them answer questions, but we also help them when they come to the US. We don't just let them be, or in Europe or in Asia, wherever they go, we have an SSGSA network, then that helps them settle in and build integrate with the community. The second aspect of SSGSA is financial assistance. This should not be diminished because when you'll hear later in our presentation today, exactly how much it costs for a student in India to try and come for higher education to any international university. As soon as that student steps out, the costs start multiplying, and you'll start to hear a little bit more about those costs later. These costs can be insurmountable for a lot of students. Many of us come from middle-class backgrounds, and we know what the value of money is. And what we believe at SSGSA is that no student should be constrained from achieving their full potential just because they didn't have the right resources. we want to make sure they have the resources. If they have the talent, if they have the merit, and they have the ambition, then they should be able to achieve their dreams. We also help them with application support, which is part of the whole process. And then finally, the support network that I was talking about, introducing them, helping them integrate with the community wherever they are going to pursue higher education. Let's move to the next slide. And what do we want to achieve from this? Helping students achieve one, just a degree is not the point of SSGSA. That is not what we do. We are a little bit, our hope, our vision, and our objectives and our goals are slightly broader than that. Education is one of them, because we believe education is the best means to upliftment of our society, of our community, and of our nation. We also believe in global citizenship, because there is no doubt that there are numerous extraordinary academic institutions in India that provide world-class education, including the Aligarh Muslim University. But getting exposure to the world outside, going out, whether you do a PhD in India and then you are able to go out and do a postdoctoral fellowship somewhere else, that gives you the exposure, that gives you the experience and the value of truly a culturally diverse education that I think is important in this global world that we live in. And then finally, empowerment. Empowerment without enablement means nothing. So what we believe in is we enable the students with the right set of resources and the right set of channels to get them to a position where they are empowered to build their own careers, but then they also help mentor other students who are down the line. I think there is the famous quote that I like to think of. What we do at SSGSA is, if you have taken the elevator to the top floor, it is your duty to send it back down. And that is really, really what we believe in. So if you move on to the next slide. In terms of empowerment, I do want to call out that we don't just develop scholars. Our intent is not just to create people who are going out and getting great jobs and building a great life for themselves. We are also trying to create and nurture leaders amongst ourselves, amongst our youth. And you will see on this slide 3 examples of how we are trying to do that, how we have achieved that, and how we are so proud of these 3 individuals on this slide. The first one, Mohsen Raza Khan. The second is Ali Muzaffar, and the third is Wasiqul Islam. 3 of our brightest scholars of SSGSA who got their scholarships in 2009, 2013, and 2014, respectively. And so, if you look at these, scholars, they've achieved so much in their young careers. They have advanced degrees from some of the top universities, or they're pursuing their advanced degrees. They're working at some of the top corporations like Booz Allen Hamilton and Deloitte. Wasiqul has worked at the CERN, which is the premier institution for physics. And the best thing about these 3 scholars, and the reason they're on this slide, is because they also have the distinct honor of having served as our leaders of SSGSA chairs. And during their tenures, SSGSA has continued to advance, continued to break from one milestone to another. And that is really what our passing the torch mission means, because we believe that the leadership of this program will be held by the students, because this is a program for the students. So that is how we implement our belief into practice. And now I'll hand it over to our current chair, Mr. Wasiqul Islam, PhD candidate at Oklahoma State, about what we have achieved with SSGSA over the past 13 years or so. Wasiqul, over to you, please.
Dear esteemed keynote speakers, Professor Abhijit Banerjee, Ms. Swara Bhaskar, our guests of honor, Professor Tariq Mansoor, Dr. Frank Islam, and all attendees of the convention. I join Dr. Rehan Bakri in welcoming you all again. Before starting my brief presentation today, I would like to share that often I remember the phase when I was a student at Aligarh Muslim University, and I used to stand in front of the notice boards of our physics department for long while looking at the international physics conference posters, news from the big physics labs around the world. And I used to think that someday I want to reach those places, but I was not sure whether I had the right means and the guidance to pursue those seemingly expensive dreams. Thanks to SSGSA program for selecting me then as a scholar, mentoring me for admission, and later on choosing me to lead the organization as a chairperson for last 2 years. The selection process of SSGSA is rigorous, and it includes multiple stages. After students fill their online forms through our application portal, multiple reviewers review each of those applications. Then we conduct GRE style standardized tests to check the fundamental skills which will be required for the success in the process. Additionally, the personal interviews with a panel of experts try to get motivations and aspirations from the students so that we can select the most deserving candidates. 14 years ago, in the first year of our mentorship program, there were only 35 applicants, and 8 of them were selected as awardees. And in this year of 2020, we received more than 700 applications, and we have chosen 30 awardees. So one can see SSGSA program and its scopes and activities have grown significantly over the years, and the program has been successful in making impacts not only in the personal lives of the selected scholars, but also in the journeys of hundreds of other students from AMU by mentoring them with similar care. To mentor a single student, it requires incredible amount of efforts and time throughout the year. And we have been able to create 120 such stories of our scholars joining 110 universities in 22 countries around the globe. This is incredible in a sense to think that how many lives our SSGSA program has touched and changed so far, and it will continue to do so. Let me show you, I will show you in the later slides that what those universities look like. But here, if you look at this map, you will see that our SSGSA scholars, they went for higher education in different continents throughout the globe. Now, let me show you here that what those 110 universities are at a glance using next 2 slides. If you look at the logos, you will find universities which are among the top 25 universities of this planet, such as Stanford, MIT, Harvard, are very few to name. Across these universities, our scholars went to pursue higher education in 26 different disciplines, from biological sciences to engineering, management, social sciences, etc. The spread across different geographies around the globe can also be found in this map, because you will find universities from Belgium to Canada to Australia, of course, United States. Some of our students went to non-academic corporate careers as well, for which SSGSA actively assists and with different webinars and help them in finding alternative career paths. This slide shows a list of very few companies where our SSGSA alumni are currently working. You can see the logos: Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, Apple, Deloitte, Dell. So these are very, very few examples. Thanks to the dedication and selfless efforts by our SSGSA mentors and volunteers who devote much time tirelessly out of their busy lives for the cause of education and also for their love for their alma mater. As envisioned by our founders and by our passionate volunteers, our SSGSA program has a long way to go. And for the journey, I will end my very brief talk here. For the journey, I would like to echo with a poetry line from my favorite poet and also a Nobel laureate in literature, Rabindranath Tagore. ক্লান্তি আমার ক্ষমা করো প্রভু, পথে যদি পিছিয়ে পড়ি কভু, which can be translated as, O our Lord, forgive us if we may have any fatigue or if we lag behind on our journey. Now, to continue with the rest of our program, let me introduce Mr. Syed Ali Rizvi Sahab with you, who has been one of the co-founders of our SSGSA. He is also the president of Resolve Corporation and has been very actively involved in various philanthropic organizations as a leader. For example, he is the president of VisionAid.org USA, a non-profit organization which works for the visually challenged persons in India. So Syed Ali Rizvi Sahab will be moderating the event from now on. So dear Ali Bhai, it's over to you.
Thank you, Wasiqul, and thank you, Rehan, earlier. And before you, Saif Bhai, for the wonderful introduction and historical perspective of SSGSA. And before I bring on our Nobel laureate speaker today, let me acknowledge, Wasiqul, you have done tremendously well in the past 2 years as the chair of the SSGSA Scholar, and you have served and given back what you received from the organization, the guidance and support. The program had a great expansion under your leadership, and you are the other Bengali in our program today. So thank you, Wasiqul. Ladies and gentlemen, Khwatin wa Hazrat, and now I have the distinct honor and privilege to introduce Professor Banerjee, or Abhijit Banerjee, to deliver the keynote address at this virtual Syed Global Scholar Award Convention 2020. It is customary to introduce the speakers, लेकिन यहाँ क्या कहा जाए? वो पूछते हैं कि गालिब कौन है? वो पूछते हैं कि गालिब कौन है? कोई बतलाए कि हम बतलाएं क्या? And here is a brief formal intro of our dear speaker. Professor Abhijit Banerjee was born in Mumbai, India, to economist parents. After a master's degree from Jawaharlal Nehru University in Delhi, he completed his PhD at Harvard University and currently is the Ford Foundation International Professor of Economics at the MIT. In 2003, Professor Banerjee co-founded the Abdul Latif Jameel Poverty Action Lab, better known as JPAL, and he remains one of the lab's directors even now. JPAL does work in over 80 countries of the world, including India. They are yet not on the continent Antarctica. Professor Banerjee is the author of many books, including Poor Economics and Good Economics for Hard Times. Both he co-authored with Professor Esther Duflo. Poor Economics is a radical rethinking of the way to fight global poverty. He has also directed 2 documentary films. And I hope, Professor Banerjee, you will think of me as a role in a movie, not as a hero maybe, like as a villain maybe in the next upcoming film. आपको hero बहुत मिल जाएंगे, लेकिन villain कम मिलेंगे आपको. Professor Banerjee is the recipient of the 2019 Nobel Prize, or known as Sveriges Riksbank Prize in Economic Sciences. The 2 other recipients are Professor Esther Duflo and Professor Michael Creamer. This Nobel Prize motivation was for their experimental approach to alleviating global poverty. Professor Banerjee believes that money should be put into the hands of the poor so that they can jumpstart economies with low demands. Professor Duflo is his wife and one of the youngest Nobel laureates. What I just said, perhaps most of you know. What most of you do not know is that Professor Banerjee is a great cook and an expert in Bengali cooking. He and Esther love dancing. They are often first on the dance floor and the last to leave. He loves Indian classical music and Bangla poetry. One of his favorite is Hindustani music vocalist Ustad Rashid Ahmed Khan Sahab. Both his parents were professors of economics, and in a way, this is the first economics family of the world. Parents are professors, and son and Bahu are two wonderful people and Nobel laureates. Professor Banerjee and Professor Duflo live in Boston with the two beautiful children aged 6 and 8. Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you Professor Abhijit Banerjee with this quote from his book, Global Economics for Hard Times. Immigration and inequality, globalization and technological disruption, slowing growth, and accelerating climate change. These are the sources of great anxiety across the world, from New Delhi and Dakar to Paris and Washington, D.C. The resources to address these challenges are there. What we lack are ideas that would help us jumpstart the wall of disagreement and distrust that divides us. If we succeed, history will remember us and our era with gratitude. And if we fail, the potential losses are incalculable. Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you Nobel Laureate 2019 for Economics, Professor Vinayak Banerjee.
Abhijit, sir, please unmute yourself.
Unmute yourself, sir.
Thank you, Rizvi. I appreciate that very generous introduction. I will plead guilty of ignoring the title that was given for my talk. Since when I talked to Rizvi, he said I should talk about the lessons, my life lessons, and I thought my life lessons were for this kind of talk, maybe that's more appropriate. So I'll tell you a little bit, but I want to start by telling you, I think, a life lesson from someone else. I'm going to read something that Sir Syed Ahmed Khan said many, many years ago, and I'll read to you. My advice to all of you is only that which you believe to be right, and do only that you believe to be right, and do not do anything the rightness of which you do not believe. This is real truthfulness, and this is the only thing on which depends success in both the worlds. Do what you believe in. I think that's extraordinarily important life advice. It seems obvious, but I would say that we're always, and in these days in particular, of where the media is dominates our lives, where we get messages all the time on the internet, on the in the newspapers, in magazines, about lifestyle and about how the rich and famous live. And if you open an Indian newspaper, you will see a picture of somebody on some beach in some exotic location. Is every single day. It's an extraordinary barrage of, I think, spurious values that are constantly being thrown at us. So it is not easy, actually, to even know what you believe in. We are constantly under a surge of kind of messages from the world which try to make us something else than we are. And it's critical that we think beyond that. So I think when Syed Ahmed Khan is saying, do only that you believe in, you have to stop to think what you believe in. It's extraordinarily important, because I think we're not often allowed to get that privilege to be able to know what we believe in. We live in a world where, when I talk to young people, I ask them, what do you want to do? And I often get in really at 17. I have a niece who's 17, or now she's 19, but when she was, and you would hear things like, oh, I want to be very successful. I want to make a lot of money. I want to have an extremely comfortable life. As if those things mean anything. I mean, I say this, it sounds, it sounds maybe you think I should not be saying these things. I have been successful. I'll come back to that. But I think, and I have a comfortable life. But I think it's extremely important to not think that these are real aspirations. These are not real aspirations, because they mean very little. If you think about, it's more things that you are supposed to say, because they show that you are ambitious, that you aim high. These are words that mean very little other than kind of saying, putting a stamp on who you are. I want to make a lot of money. I'm ambitious, but I think ambition is so much bigger than that. So I want you to indulge me in thinking about why I don't believe these things. So think about, for example, what is it that it means to be? So I think it's important to be able to support your families. Many of you will need to do that. Your families will need help. And I think it's important. I'm not at all someone who says money is not important. We live in a world where it is. But I think it's extremely important to think about what it means in the context of your life. So in the context of your life, there are things you need to do. Everybody needs to do. They have needs from families, you need needs from friends, you may need to support many people. But I think once you look beyond that, I think it's very important to not fall into the trap of taking what people say. Your families will tell you certain things. They tell you, take that job because it will pay well, take that job because it's secure. All of those, I think you have to, once you have decided that you have done enough economically, you have to stop listening. I really think that's critical, because I think it's extremely, the world is so conspired to drive us to do certain things. So you just go back to that, what I said, I want to make a lot of money. What does it mean to be a billionaire? Suppose you made $1 billion a year. Could you spend it? That's like spending $3 million a day. You're going to buy what? A house a day? How will you do it? It just takes too long to buy a house. It would take, you just couldn't do it. You could not spend that money. There is just so much, that's just so much money that, I think the vision of being very rich is sort of an ersatz vision. It's one that, is delivered to us as something very specific, but it actually means very little. What would I do with the money? What is it useful to me for? If you think about, I'm very inspired recently by Mackenzie Scott, who used to be Jeff Bezos's wife and is now his ex-wife. She just she as a result of the pandemic, Amazon stock went up and she became even richer than she was. And now she's basically trying to get her foundation to give away money faster. And for the most part, they're failing. They're not even able to give away money that fast. Their processes are stopping them. So I think that she's very inspiring in trying to get them to give away money, not to hold on to it. But I think this idea that there is some meaningful sense in which, being sort of extremely rich is meaningful by itself, without thinking about what life you want, is, I think, is something that we are constantly told, but I don't think you should believe it. Likewise, being successful. What does it mean? To be a CEO? I mean, I know many CEOs, and half of them spend their days worrying about whether their company is going up and down, or whether they're going to, is it the stock price is going down now? So what am I supposed to do? Should I work 16 hours a day? Should I see? I know I was speaking to one last week who said that he sees his families only in the weekend. Is that a life you want? Do you want? What's comfort? Is it a big house? How many cars? I mean, I'll be honest. We in Boston have a big house. We're now this year we're spending it in Paris. We have a half or less than half the size of our house. Do we notice it? No. Why? All four of us are always in the same room, wherever we are. And in fact, in Paris, the room we are in happens to be a bigger room. So we have, even though our house is smaller, we're always in the same room, and that happens to be a bigger room here. So it makes, I think we constantly ascribe meaning to things which have very little substance. I think that's a general, the media wants us to do it because it gives us a lot of power over us. Then they can sell us things. So I think it is extremely important to be skeptical of all of these handed down values. And so what does it, what's the other side of it? What can you do? And you're young. So I'm going to speak from the point of view of someone who's 25 and who's thinking about this question, or 20. I think first thing, think of what you want in life. It's not easy actually, because we are so fed ideas that, it's hard to resist them. And it takes time. I mean, it took me many, many years to, I have written elsewhere that when I joined the PhD in economics, this was in my Nobel Prize lecture. And I said, I didn't really know whether I wanted to be really an economist. I was doing a PhD. Why? Because that's what you do. I had no idea whether I really wanted it. The passion comes later. So give yourself time. Learn what you really like. A corollary of that is don't make commitments, lifestyle commitments early. It's very hard to reverse. It's very hard to go back to simplicity. Start simple. I think it was very, very useful for me to have spent many years with very little money. I think that was a good life lesson, because for the most part, it's really money after a point doesn't make life more interesting. It relieves pressure. It makes you, if somebody in your family needs help, you can help them. So that's wonderful about money. But that's about it. I think for the most part, I used to have great fun planning dinners. I lived in a dorm. We could cook. And I often had great fun planning dinners where I would get food from the, vegetables from the dorm and cook them and spend no money and invite my friends. It was a challenge, but challenges are what you define, not what life defines for you. You define your challenge. You say, this is my challenge. I want to have no money, but I'm still going to cook a dinner for my friends. I think it's very important to not, when you're young especially, don't let yourself be dictated by all kinds of exigencies which are really irrelevant. The other side of it is, therefore, given that you're freed from, the aspiration of making any more money than you really need to support your family, take the job you think that's most exciting and challenging. That's really the right thing to do, both from the point of view of being enjoying it, but also for long-term success. I think long-term success comes from being exceptional at something. And the thing you want to do is the more thing you probably will have a chance of being exceptional at. Give yourself a chance to be exceptional. Give yourself the space to be exceptional. Do something take the job where you could do something that people will remember you for. I think there is much to be gained by sort of not, having the long view on that, to be thinking that, there is one day I will be recognized for this, that will both give you a long-term success and make you happier. Don't worry about job security. You are here in this program because you are outstanding. Your talent will carry you. Let your talent carry you. If you lose a job, it's probably because you were not suited for it. You should look for something else. And more likely, you're going to leave that job because you'll be so good at it that somebody else will take you. So don't worry about job security. Job security is something that some point in life maybe is valuable, but when you're young, don't look for it. Look for what's exciting, what's adventurous, what's risky, because that's where you're going to get the real chance to be a star, a real success. Work as hard as you can to do the best you can. So it's important to focus on doing the best. But don't lose your sense of enjoyment. Time doesn't come back. You can't rewind. When your children are young, your children are young. You will enjoy that. Those are moments you will never get back. You cannot. So my view when I was that I will sleep after I'm 40. I still don't sleep enough, but in the meanwhile, there's lots of things to do. One day I'll sleep. I'm still short on sleep, but but if you like sleeping, sleep. My wife really likes sleeping, so she sleeps. I think that give yourself the chance to do what you really want to do. She won the Nobel Prize, but she still goes to sleep at 9:30 and sleeps till 7 if she can. It's give yourself that chance. Do what you need to do, but also give yourself the chance to appreciate life. Because if you don't, you will never learn what you're enjoying, because you'll be too harassed, too driven to have the moment to think, am I enjoying life or am I just running after something? I think that's critical. And let me say, and this is the last point I want to make, and the most important one. Set your own goals for success. You have to, before you, so don't, when you actually think of what you want to do, don't try to go to big before you know you're doing it well. Think about, you set your standards of what is doing it perfectly, do it perfectly, and then go to scale. Some people will touch the lives of many people. Others will utterly transform the lives of a few. It doesn't matter what, Rizvi Saab read us a poem by Ghalib. If someone can write one poem that's comparable to that of Ghalib, they've done enough for life. I think we each need to find what's the dimension in which we will measure our success, and give yourself that chance. Don't let that be dictated to you. And then good luck to you. You all come with talent, and you've had this opportunity. You will no doubt do wonderful things. I'm going to be watching for what's coming. They'll show up on the websites of this wonderful organization, and congratulations.
Professor Banerjee, what an inspiring speech, wonderful speech. I just can't tell you. This was such an amazing speech coming from you. I wish all of us had taken a few of your courses at MIT that you teach. It will make life for all of us so much simpler and better and easier to handle than all the money things we talk about, all the billions we talk about. You give us some very few good, such simple hints. You said, work as hard as we can. Don't lose enjoyment. Sleep if you have to. excel in what you do. These are such wonderful golden words for all our scholars. Dr. Saab, we have got about more than nearly 1,000 people from about 20 countries watching us on different platforms, social media and webinar and so on. And we have gotten, I'm not sure how many questions, but if you allow me, with your permission, I will give you 2 or 3 questions. This is not an exam. You can take the answers as you wish.
I think if I don't know the answer.
But I will give you the question that you can take a dig at whatever you want. The first question I got here was, let me see, where is it? There's so many questions. Let me go back and where is that question I had? There is one here. Our education system is focused on grades and ranks. How else can students demonstrate their full potential, especially to positively impact the world? That's one question. And the second question I received was, how has higher education made an impact in life of his peers, and why he decided to pursue higher education outside India? And we had one more question, which said, the model, your observations on the capitalist model of education and universities, which is they throw students into huge debt after they graduate. Your views or comments, you can choose to answer all 3 or 1 or whatever you take, please, at your convenience. Thank you so much.
Let me answer the first one. So can you read it again?
It said, our education system is focused on grades and ranks. How else can students demonstrate their full potential, especially to positively impact the world?
I think in some ways that goes back to what, that's why I wanted to take it, because it goes back to what I was saying. I think in the end, I mean, there are some standards you'll have to meet because it's useful to get degrees. I don't deny that. But I think beyond that, all of you, you have to set your own standards of success. You have to decide that I am, whatever it is, I am, by doing what I'm doing, I'm really transforming the lives of some people. And if that's 5 people in your neighborhood who you are helping, that's 5 people who are being helped. I think it's extremely important to not have sort of global ideas of scale and achievement. I think they need to be contextualized to your life. And in your life, you will find what resonates, what is really, really satisfying. If you want to sit down eventually just to, have time to write poetry, then you should find a life that just allows that. I mean, I realize that there's some economic constraints on that and that you will have to meet those, but I certainly don't think that it would be a bad decision if your compulsion is to write poetry, then you have to write poetry. I know Ghalib had the advantage of being from a wealthy family, and so he could afford doing it. But even for him, it was a stretch, and I think it's what you need to do. You have to sort of take that into account, and the one thing to realize is that it's 5 years you can do, or you can fake it. But most, you really, when you start doing something that's really satisfying, you do it for life. You'll do it till you're 80. And so you have to find the satisfaction that comes from inside. You cannot just set it down to a set of symbols that you've achieved. I think that that's extremely important. So I think that in the end, beyond some, I think you'll have to check off some boxes. The world doesn't let us entirely get away from it, but I think, and I think in that, going back to the third question, I would say that I think one of the tragedies, and this is actually something that economists, including one of my students, has studied, which is that one of the I would say unfortunate consequences of this debt is that many people feel trapped. they don't actually have the liberty to do what they want to do. It's something to think about. Is that, you know, when you can go to a great university and pay a lot of money, but then that money will drive your life, because you'll have to then take the job to pay that down. Absolutely keep that in mind. I think it's critical that you keep that in mind. That it's you know, you want, in the end, you have only one chance to do what you want to do, and if you get trapped, you're trapped. And I'm very sensitive to that. I've seen too many people just spending their life doing, you know, earning the money that they need for one thing or the other. You know, they pay down their student debt, then do this, then do that. And I think it's very important to stay ahead of that. It can catch you anytime, and so it's very important to be mindful.
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया अभिजीत भाई, आपका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। बस आपने इतने अच्छे अल्फाज कहे, और मैं एक, आपने चूंकि शायरी की बात की, मैं एक शेर आपके शान में कहकर आगे बढ़ जाऊंगा। आई विल कॉल द नेक्स्ट स्पीकर, कि ये वसीम बरेलवी का शेर है कि दुआ करो कि सलामत रहे अभिजीत की हिम्मत, दुआ करो कि सलामत रहे अभिजीत की हिम्मत, ये एक चिराग कई आंधियों पर भारी है। You are doing great work for the poor and the economics for the poor. So all the best to you and your family, and of course for taking this important time away from your family to be with us and join on this webinar. And I hope you'll stay on and listen to the other speeches as well. But thank you, Professor Banerjee. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'm afraid I'll have to leave. I have my family and some other obligations. But I thank you for having me. I wish you all the luck with your enterprise. This is a very noble enterprise, and that one that has great potential for transforming the lives of many people. I thank you, and I say goodbye.
Thank you. And if you, by the way, just happen to have any moments again, you can always hop in and hop off as well.
I'll come back.
Gigi. Bahut shukriya. Thank you so much. These were such inspiring words from the 2019 Nobel Laureate of Economics, Professor Abhijit Banerjee. What an inspiring speech he gave. Before I put on my next speaker, we will have some transitions whereby we will have a brief video of one of our scholars. And this scholar is Mohsin Raza Khan. He is SSGSA Scholar and Awardee of 2009. Later on, he became the chair of the program in 2013 and 15. He did a PhD from University of Maryland and now serves in our organization. And of course, he works for Booz Allen Hamilton.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it, and thank you everyone for joining today's session. So given I'm one of the beneficiaries, coming from a background where no one before me in my family had an opportunity to go for formal education, although they valued the education so much. So my desire to get educated brought me to the city. From city, I came to the Aligarh Muslim University because AMU offers excellent undergraduate programs and possibility of like funding such as the scholarships, and which was really important for me. I spent some time at Aligarh and quickly realized like I really like research. That is something I would like to do. So given I was reading a lot of research coming from the US, including, you know, top-notch work that they're doing, as well as the pioneer researchers coming from different laboratories, and the excellent research opportunities that US universities offer. So I developed this desire that I would like to do my PhD in the US. But there were hurdles, and I would mention two of them. So the one was the financial part, given coming from a middle-class family, and being the first college graduate in my family, I didn't have resources, particularly the financial ones. Also, I didn't knew the process, how to go about doing the PhD in the US. So that's where the SSGSA came to my rescue. I was selected as a scholar, as Ali Bhai said, in 2009. I was mentored by Dr. Hon'ble, Dr. Saif Sheikh, and my mentors made sure that together we built an optimized plan for my success. So I completed my PhD in pharmaceutical sciences from University of Maryland, and I did my thesis research at National Institutes of Health as a Graduate Partnership Program Fellow. Afterwards, I joined Booz Allen Hamilton, which is a leading management consulting firm. So I work as an associate at Booz Allen Hamilton, and I support our work at Food and Drug Administration, NIH, and other healthcare space. So if it was not for SSGSA, I may be successful for sure, but not to the extent that I am today. I'm speaking here. If I look back 10 years ago, I couldn't imagine, like, I will be sharing my life story with you. So it was because of SSGSA, the excellent mentorship and the financial support I received. So to pay back almost for a decade, I have been actively volunteering in the organization, helping the SSGSA scholars, our young brothers and sisters, help them become successful. Similarly, how my mentors made sure that I become successful. So the organization, SSGSA, not only brings excellent scholars and helps them become successful, but also gives them an opportunity of leadership. So I was trusted with leading the organization for 2 years, and I became the first SSGSA chair who was a scholar. So I learned a lot of things working with the organization that I still use in my day-to-day work, whether it is a professional or personal. Not only it changed my life, but it also changed lives of my family members, my distant and immediate family members. We are 5 siblings. All of us have the graduate degrees now. 2 of my other brothers are about to submit their PhD thesis. So I learned a lot how to mentor, and that is what I also applied in my own family. So that's why I really appreciate the excellent work SSGSA is doing, and all of you who are supporting it, whether you are a mentor, you're a scholar, you're providing financial support. Thank you so much. It was because of you that SSGSA is successful, and because of SSGSA's excellent work, scholars like me got an opportunity to become successful. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mohsen, for sharing your wonderful story. You are amazing and you are inspiring many others as well. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Khwatin and Hazrat, now let us hear our guest of honor, Professor Tariq Mansoor Sahab. Most of us know him, but I will briefly say a few lines for the benefit of those who might be Aligarh ki Zaban mein juniors. Professor Tariq Mansoor is the Vice Chancellor of वो जगह जो हम सबके दिलों पर राज करती है, यानी Aligarh Muslim University, our very dear Aligarh Muslim University. Through a career of 37 years in the public sphere, he has distinguished himself by making contributions in the fields of education, medical and hospital administration, institution building, and most recently in the battle against COVID-19 pandemic. As Vice Chancellor, he has introduced several emerging areas of knowledge at AMU through introduction of new programs and centers such as the Paramedical College, the Institute of Pharmacy, the College of Nursing, the Cardiology Center and Cath Lab, the MBA in Hospital Management, Food Technology, Low Vision Aid Center in Ophthalmology, Artificial Intelligence, Robotic Engineering, Solar Energy, Biomedical Engineering, Entrepreneurship, Earthquakes Engineering, and Disaster Management, and the list goes on. It's a huge list, really. He played a crucial role in planning and affecting the intensification of the academic infrastructure and innovation systems at AMU, notably the conversion of 168 classrooms into smart classrooms, the project that was started during tenure of the then Vice Chancellor, General Zamuddin Shah Sahab. This made the campus fully Wi-Fi integrated with online learning resources, creation of a big repository, introduction of Moodle learning management systems, the Tinkering Lab in the Engineering College, and of course, the Incubation Center, the Entrepreneurial and Incubation Center, and of course, the Innovation Council. I'd like to add that AMU has been able to successfully transit to online teaching and learning through the pandemic because of the creation of this infrastructure. It's also heartening to note that Professor Tariq Mansoor Sahab has worked extremely hard and in very difficult times to maintain the rank of Aligarh Muslim University in the top 5 universities in India, as has been in the case of his predecessor as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you our dear Vice Chancellor, Professor Tariq Mansoor Sahab. Tariq Bhai.
Dr. Frank Islam Saab, Mr. Ali Rizvi, and the members of the SSGSA team, Dr. Saif Sheikh and Mr. Wasiqul Islam, Dr. Rehan Bakri, and all others. Assalamu alaikum and good evening. It is good morning there in the United States and maybe good afternoon somewhere else also. Because scholars from so many countries are joining this program. It is very difficult to speak after a Nobel laureate has spoken. And that too a Bengali. Because you know the Bengalis, they are very good speakers and very much accomplished academicians and literary figures. So first of all, I'd like to congratulate Ali Rizvi Saab and his team of the Sir Syed Education Society of North America for running the SSGSA program in a successful manner and helping so many meritorious and needy students of their alma mater to attain higher education in various foreign universities. We are really thankful to you for this great work which you are doing. Now, I told Ali Rizvi Saab that I will not speak on any specific topic. I will of course cover the alumni a little bit, but I will just give some general remarks about the Aligarh Muslim University and about the centenary and the achievements of Aligarh Muslim University and what is there for the future. So I will start with two quotations. One was given by Professor Chatterjee. Professor Chatterjee was a member of the inquiry committee which was appointed at the instance of the Government of India in 1961. He had observed Muslim University Aligarh with its open door policy of admitting members of all communities and giving them opportunities to share fully in its residential and corporate life is in a especially privileged position to foster that emotional integration which is essential for the preservation of India's cultural and political unity. The other quotation which I want to start with was given by Sir Hamilton Gibbs, a French Orientalist, who characterized MAO College as the first modernist organization in Islam. The first modernist organization in Islam. To establish a modernist organization at that time was not an easy thing. And it required exemplary commitment, conviction, and sacrifice of some great persons under the leadership of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. Because Sir Syed Ahmad Khan tried to change the thought process of the Muslim community from medieval thinking and approach to modern scientific thinking. And it was a very difficult task. Because at that time, the Muslims of India, they were hostile to the English language, English culture, in Christian religion. The Hindus, they were also hostile. But the Muslims, they are more hostile than the Hindus. So it was more difficult to change the mindset of the Muslims as compared to the Hindu community. He tried to do it and succeeded to a significant extent. And he established the MAO College in 1877, which was later on converted to Aligarh Muslim University. Actually, Aligarh Muslim University was not established in 1920. Aligarh Muslim University has been established in 1877 because AMU is the offshoot of the MAO College. So legally it may have been established in 1920, but otherwise As a part of a movement, it was established in 1877 with the establishment of the MAO College. And the establishment of this university changed the economic, social, and political life of India, of British India at that time. It had a lot of political and other consequences. We will not go into all those things because some of them, they were also controversial in the pre-partition days. The other thing which AMU has done, so that was the one great achievement of Aligarh Muslim University, changing the medieval thought process of the Muslim community from medieval period to modern scientific education. The other role of achievement of Aligarh Muslim University was its pioneering role in women's education. This I said yesterday also when in the Riyadh alumni meet. You'll be surprised to notice that perhaps for the AMU was the first university in the world whose first chancellor was a woman, Begum Sultan Jahan of Bhopal. The first lady of India, first Muslim lady of India, Begum Abda Ahmad, wife of President Fakhruddin Ali Ahmad, was also an alumnus of AMU. The first female chief minister of Assam, Mrs. Anwara Taimur, was also an alumnus of AMU. And the first Muslim female vice chancellor to become a vice chancellor of Central University, Professor Najma Akhtar, who is presently vice chancellor of Jam Millia, is also alumnus of Aligarh Muslim University. At this time, 35% of students in AMU, they are females. And in some departments, in life sciences, in postgraduate courses, the majority of the students, they are females. It is a great achievement. So when we remember Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, we should not forget the efforts of Sheikh Abdullah. We should not forget his efforts by remembering Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, because he did some great work for women education at a time when nobody ever thought of sending Muslim girls to a college or a university. So that was a great change. And our women's college, women's polytechnic, we have got a women's college, women's polytechnic, as all of you are aware. We have also a center for women's studies. And we have a career planning center for women also. We have also, on the eve of the centenary, we have also submitted a new proposal for an Institute of Professional and Occupational Studies for Women, costing 140 crores, and it is under consideration of the Education Ministry and the Prime Minister's office. Delivering the annual convocation address on 20th February 1949, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, India's first education minister, had observed, Sir Syed had established in Aligarh not only a college, but also an intellectual and cultural center. In time, with the progressive spirit of the time, the center of the circle was Sir Syed himself, and he attracted around him some of the best intellectuals in the world. So these are some of the achievements of Aligarh Muslim University in the last 100 years. Another achievement of Aligarh Muslim University is its role in the freedom movement. It played an important role in the freedom movement. India during the 1920s saw the upsurge of mass protest and struggle to attain freedom. And Aligarh Muslim University played an active role and responded to the call of Mahatma Gandhi for national emancipation. Maulana Muhammad Ali, Shaukat Ali, known as Ali Brothers, Hakim Ajmal Khan, Mukhtar Ahmad Ansari, Hazrat Mohani, Raja Mahindra Pratap, Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, Abdul Majid Khwaja, Dr. Zakir Hussain, Captain Abbas Ali Khan, a close associate of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, Captain Abbas Ali Khan, were all nationalist leaders from Aligarh Muslim University, who were the prominent freedom fighters during non-cooperation movement and Khilafat movement, and subsequent struggles under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi. So AMU has produced such great stalwarts of the freedom movement. Then another contribution of the Aligarh Muslim University is alumni network. We have got great alumni. One honorable and famous alumni is sitting here, and he'll be speaking after me, Dr. Frank Islam. We are very honored that we have such type of alumnus. Very proud. We have got other alumni also. We are also proud of them. But Dr. Frank Islam has maintained his touch and contact with the Aligarh Muslim University. That is the most important thing. You should be in touch with your parent institution. And he has made a great contribution to our Faculty of Management, to our Department of Mass Communication, and many other departments in the university. We definitely have a magnificent and unique alumni network. And many people are jealous of our alumni network. When I was abroad in West Asia and in United Kingdom, people were very, very jealous of AMU people. Because they were saying, you always support each other. If one alumni, AMU person is there, he will bring 4 other alumni in that company or in that organization. So people, they're very jealous. And our alumni network is not only in the big countries, in the United States and in West Asian countries, but also in small countries like Brunei, Maldives, Mauritius, Singapore, Hong Kong, South Korea. Of course, we have great alumni network in all the Indian cities and the United States and West Asian countries and in Europe also. But to have active alumni networks in small countries is definitely unique. I think 1.5 years back, I was in Singapore in transit. I had gone to Indonesia on some offshore trip to the High Commissioner of Singapore, the Indian High Commissioner there, Mr. Javed Ashraf. He invited us. We were in transit for a few hours. He invited us to his house. And he told me that, though he is himself not an alumnus of AMU, he said, your alumni association in Singapore is the most active. Though it is, and they are doing such great social work. So this is what I'm saying, in small countries, our alumni network is very active. The alumni network was activated, it was existing earlier also, but when Professor P.K. Abdulaziz became the Vice Chancellor, he paid special attention to the alumni network because he was from Kerala. A lot of expatriates, they are from Kerala, they are in the country. He realized the potential of this. He visited the United States and other countries, established contact with the alumni. His work was carried forward by Lieutenant General Zamiruddin Shah, my predecessor. He did a lot to establish the alumni network. He established the Alumni Affairs Committee also and office also. And I am committed to further carry forward this interaction and collaboration with our alumni worldwide. And the alumni, they are doing great work under the chairmanship of Professor Sufyan Beg, who is the chairman of our Alumni Affairs Committee. We have also published a World Alumni Directory, which we are going to release in a few days' time. Though it is not a complete thing, but it is a good beginning. Because it is a city-wide directory. So if somebody wants to see the alumni in the United States, he will go to New York, or he'll find all of them. Or he will go to Washington. So it is a city-wise and country-wise directory. The alumni are helping us in many ways by instituting scholarships, and your scholarship program is also one of the examples of that, which Mr. Ali Rizvi and his team are doing this great work. They are also helping us in infrastructure development, in academic development, and we also have a Aligarh Academic Enrichment Program in which the foreign alumni, they act as resource persons for various departments and centers. In a nutshell, I will say that the alumni, they are our brand ambassadors. They are our goodwill ambassadors. The reputation of the university worldwide is dependent upon the work and the image of the alumni, because they are in contact with this civil society in various countries, and not the present students of AAB or the present staff of AAB. They are confined still to the campus. So like all great institutions, we are proud of our alumnus. Now, what we are supposed to do in the future, this is regarding the past. Now, the Muslim community in India is 200 million strong. The educational needs of the Muslim community, they cannot be satisfied by AMU. In the 90s and early 90s, it was all right. In 1910 or maybe 15, when people from all over the elite, they used to come to Aligarh Muslim University. And there were very few universities like AMU or BHU or Lahore University or Calcutta University. At that time, it was Calcutta only, not Kolkata. And Bombay University and Madras University. Now we have got hundreds of universities in India. So the Muslim community requires thousands of schools, hundreds of colleges, and dozens of universities. AMU can act as a catalyst. It can act as a role model. It can act as a facilitator for education of the Muslims. It has to take the best Muslim students, and it must take the best faculty. We have started this process. Recently, we have had selection committees. We have selected a lot of teachers from outside who are having foreign exposure, who are working in the Middle East. So we have tried to make a beginning in this, and I'm sure the fruits will be there in the near future. Recently, only last month, we have selected about 7-8 persons who are working in Saudi Arabia or in UAE or in other West Asian countries, in France also, but who are all having exposure to American universities or European universities. So though they were working in Saudi Arabia, but earlier they have worked abroad. And they had PhD degrees from various American universities or European universities. Then AMU has to do some other things also. It has to lead the community in facing new challenges and issues. Challenges will always come on the way, and it must lead the community in these issues also. And we must face adversity in the same way as Sir Syed Ahmad Khan had faced adversity after the mutiny was crushed, or the first freedom struggle was crushed in 1857. He had converted that adversity into opportunity. So we must learn to work in adverse circumstances. We have to follow the path of modernity, flexibility, pragmatism as shown by our founder Sir Syed. And we must work to strengthen our democratic, multi-pluralistic fabric in India. Political differences will always be there, and it will be there in a democracy. You see, so many political differences are there in the United States also. In India also, they must be there. But there should not be social schism. Social fragmentation should not be there. That will be detrimental to the country and to the society as a whole. So we all have to work together with the various organizations, with the government of India, with the various state governments, with the various organizations. All of us have to work together in so many ways. And politics is nothing static. It is always a dynamic process. It always keeps changing. But our democracy and our way of life, they are very important. See what has happened in the United States. Things have changed so fast. So it is the systems which are very important in a country. And we have to strengthen our institutions, with our democratic institutions, and we have to work with everybody, with all the organizations, with all the political parties, with people of all ideologies. Because communication is the best method of working. So I once again congratulate Professor Ali Rizvi Saab and his team for organizing this convention. And I'm sure the deliberations will benefit all of us. And I'm very much looking forward to hearing Dr. Frank Islam, because he released the newsletter, and then we are looking forward of having his views also on this important occasion and on the eve of the centenary of the Aligarh Muslim University. Thank you so much. Khuda Hafiz. But I'm here. I'm not going.
Thank you, Professor Tariq Mansoor Sahab, for that inspiring speech and a wonderful coverage of the entire AMU and its past history and the future projections. You are right. We all have to be in connect with the university and give our best to our great alma mater. And now let's, if everybody's ready, can we get Shujat, please, to come in and give a live update on himself, because Shujat Badr is one of our SSGSA scholars, and he's going to be talking briefly about his own journey. Shujat Badr.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and greetings. My name is Shujat Hussain Badr, and I'm a SSGSA scholar. I received this scholarship in 2014, and I did my schooling from Kashmir, and in 2010, I came to Aligarh Muslim University to pursue my BTech in mechanical engineering. And since the very early age, I was fascinated by flights, rockets, being an astronaut, and I still hold that dream close to my heart. I've always wanted to be an astronaut. So I always wanted to pursue, my studies in the area of flight and aeronautics. So, but I knew very early on that the best place to be at to learn and study flight is United States. But due to very obvious reasons of finances and lack of guidance, I had no clue what to do. But luckily, at the end of 2013, I got to know about SSGSA. And since then, my perception has changed about, making your dreams a possibility. So SSGSA came to my rescue in 2014, and it helped me realize my dreams, to come to the United States to pursue my dreams further. So it not only lessened my financial burden, but the one-on-one mentorship helped me immensely to chart my action plan to apply for universities abroad. So now, after 6 years, I am speaking to you from Ames, Iowa State University, where I work as a doctoral student in the area of aerospace engineering. And I feel like I'm living the dream. And right now, I'm being funded by United States Navy and NASA. So I feel like I'm getting closer. I'm there. And thanks to SSGSA. I remember in 2015 when I boarded my flight from Srinagar to Chicago. At that point, I had a lot of people in my mind who I wanted to thank, and people and organizations as well. And SSGSA was definitely on top of that list. And it has been these 6 years of wonderful journey with SSGSA as a mentor now, and helping these new scholars realize their dreams who come from very humble backgrounds. It's very satisfying to be a part of their journey. And now, as I said before, I've always wanted to be an astronaut. So that dream might be very far-fetched and it may sound like wishful thinking right now, but who knows, maybe, one day, I was, my heart was full of gratitude for SSGSA and people when I boarded my flight from Kashmir to Chicago. Maybe one day my flight won't be earthbound anymore and it will be to outer space rather. And at that point too, SSGSA will be on top of my list. So dream big and thank you, SSGSA. Thanks a lot, Syed.
Shujat, thank you. May you fly higher and higher, rise and shine. And we are with you all the while. Thank you, Shujat.
Thank you, Ali Bhai. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I'd like to, before I bring in our very dear Dr. Frank Islam, I'd like to have Ali Muzaffar come and talk briefly about the sustainability of this program, what we call SSGSA. Very short, quick. Thank you, Ali Muzaffar. Please do it. Ali Muzaffar has also been the chair of the program and a recipient of the award.
Thank you, Ali Bhai. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Loud and clear.
I'm chair of this organization. I've experienced that mentorship component of the program play a huge role in the journey of awardees. SSGSA is about $1,200. That is about 90,000 rupees. और कभी-कभी दिखने में छोटे पत्थर भी अच्छे रास्तों पर इंसान को जाने से रोक देते हैं. Knowing my current mentees or juniors in AMU campus who come from middle and lower income families, especially in Central University like AMU, this initial amount and support does play a deciding role to pursue higher education abroad, and where other national application costs just about 500 rupees or less. $1,200 matter in the frame of reference for a student to provide a career path option booster. As an organization, we're extremely transparent to our donors, expanding across continents, who have donated generously since the inception of this organization in 2006. Whether you donate GRE or TOEFL for fees for 5 awardees or just a portion of it, GRE costs around $200 or TOEFL application fees. Our test preparation in a small online platform like our partnership with Magoosh, every penny counts. Every year, we target to provide this career booster to 25 or selected scholars, and your support today or tomorrow could be in many forms. And believe me, it will matter because it mattered to scholars like me and many others on call today. You can donate using the QR code or scanning through your camera if you are on your laptop, or you can donate on www.ssgsa.us. You can also pledge to donate your time as a mentor in your area, which all of us on call today and many others on attendees are doing as well in their area of expertise like science, engineering, and medicine. To pledge your time and donation today, please fill out a 20-second Google form shared on the screen, which is www.bit.ly/pledge-to-SSGSA. At the end, I just want to say that COVID pandemic has taught us the meaning of togetherness, and the sustainability of that nonprofit program like SSGSA depends on the support we build together in the community of scholars who graduated from SSGSA and are listening to us today from across the world, places today, or support of the people who care and know the power of quality higher education. Thank you for your continued support and your love to the SSGSA program. Thank you. Ali Bhai, over to you.
Thank you so much, Ali Muzaffar, for giving these brief details about the program and the costs involved. And now, over to my very dear friend, and I've been raving to introduce our very dear friend, of course, Dr. Frank Islam. It is a distinct honor and privilege to introduce my very dear friend, Dr. Frank Islam, the man who truly needs absolutely no introduction. Mr. Islam is an entrepreneur, a philanthropist, a civic leader, writer, thinker, and an Algerian. Mr. Islam has a special commitment to artistic causes, civic and educational causes as well. He's guided by the rare virtues of hard work, focus, quality, innovation, kindness, and a very genuine desire to give back as much as he can to society. Above all this, he's a fine human being. He serves on the boards of nearly 15 universities and has authored several books. He's a frequent columnist and writes a regular blog. And if he gets time, he also hosts his own television show and brings people from across the world in a very inspiring journey with them week after week. From the people that I know, many of them I know, Frank is one such great person who is passionate about bringing quality education and empowering the underprivileged. At AMU, thanks to Frank's philanthropic generosity, the new management complex bears his name, the Frank and Debbie Islam Management Complex. And last year, he inaugurated the Frank and Debbie Islam Auditorium at the Department of Mass Communication. I have shared this journey with him for all these years. We talk regularly on many of these projects, and we come to a conclusion, and he makes things happen. And mentorship friends played a very, very crucial role in Frank's incredible journey. Today, he will briefly share his remarks and launch the SSGSA newsletter. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming my very, very dear friend, the man who perhaps is the most widely known Algerian on the whole wide world. He has given millions to AMU and continues to engage and give back to our very dear alma mater. And I'm sure SSGSA will also see his generosity as well. Thank you. Friends, my friend, Dr. Frank Islam. Frank, it's all yours.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear, sir.
So before I give my remarks and thanks to Ali, let me see, I was inspired by the presentations made by so many individuals, and thank you for your kindness and thank you for your generosity. And the common theme and the message that I got from this is that education empowers the mind and uplifts the soul. Education is the gift that keeps on giving. And thank you for extending your hope, your hand, and your help to those who need the most. And that's the people from AMU. I'll be more than happy to do what I can to support these initiatives. And I cannot ever be more thankful to all of you. So thank you, Ali, for that kind introduction. And thanks also to you, your team at the Associate Education Society of North America for asking me to share a few thoughts with the STEAM group participating in this agenda and to formally release the SSGSA annual newsletter for 2020. Let me begin by congratulating Ali Rizvi for the phenomenal work that the SSGSA has done and all of the SSGSA award recipients, past and present, for their notable accomplishments in the classroom and beyond. Greetings to all of you who have joined us for this event. It is a privilege and honor to be on the agenda for this virtual convention with the Nobel Prize winning economics Professor Banerjee, award-winning actress Swara Bhaskar, and my dear friend, AMU Vice Chancellor Tariq Mansoor, and to hear their inspiring and informative remarks. Thank you, Professor Mansoor, for being here, and thank you for all you do to make a meaningful difference. And you are the leader. Your success is our success. My own comments will be brief and personal. I share them with you as a member of what I call the Aligarh family tree. So Syed Ahmad Khan, upon the establishment of the Aligarh Muslim University, said, "From the seed which we sow today, there may spring up a mighty tree, whose branches, like those banyan of the soil, shall in their turn strike firm roots into the earth, and themselves send forth a new and vigorous sapling, that this college may expand into a university, whose sons and daughters shall go forth throughout the land and the breadth of the land, to preach the gospel of free inquiry, of large-hearted tolerations, and of a pure morality. Syed was a visionary. Since AMU's founding Alligerians have not only gone across the length and the breadth of this great land, they've also gone around the globe to make a meaningful and profound difference. Currently, as the Vice Chancellor said, there are almost 20,000 alumni in 100 countries. They are the seeds of the Aligarh family tree. I am one of them. What's best in me, I owe it to AMU. Our paths have been different, but the common and transcendent bond that has united us has been a belief in and a commitment to equal justice and a shared sense of humanity. A combination of technical expertise and moral fortitude have enabled the AMU graduates to make their mark in the world and to serve as positive role models for others. So too are the SSGSA scholars, who since this program was started in 2007, have spread across 22 countries and been placed in 110 premier universities of the world. I've said this before, and I will say this again. My days at AMU had a profound effect on me. I have a fond and enduring memories of AMU. AMU shaped my story and determined my destiny. Its principles have always guided me throughout my life, whether the time is calm or the crisis. It provided me with the basic building blocks to become a successful entrepreneur, to assume serious responsibilities, and most importantly, to become a passionate and thought leader. Even though there was no SSGSA mentoring or a scholarship program when I left AMU India to go to school at the University of Colorado in Boulder to get my bachelor's and master's degree in computer science. But I do have a direct and indirect connection to the SSGSA scholars of this century. The indirect connection is that I went to the United States from AMU because a visiting professor from the University of Colorado took me under the wing, mentored me, and helped me enroll at the outstanding school in the United States of America, University of Colorado. Without that support, my journey would have been a different one. I'm sure the same can be said for all of the SSGSA scholars. Hats off to them and to those who have been their mentors and all who have supported them and they started their journey. The direct connection is that when I was visiting AMU last year, I had the honor to meet all of the 2019 SSGSA scholars and award them their certificate at a function organized at the new management complex that we sponsor that bears our name, Frank and Debbie Islam Management Complex. When my wife Debbie and I participated in the foundation stone ceremony for the building of that new complex in 2017, I made the prediction that from this management complex will come the future leaders who will make India and the world a better place. They have, and they will do so for many, many generations to come. Hats off again to scholars, the mentor Ali Rizvi and his team, and for all making AMU an educational empowerment zone. And as I said, when we dedicated the Frank and Debbie Islam Auditorium in the Department of Mass Communication, a launching pad. Speaking of communication, let me conclude my remarks by turning to the SSGSA annual newsletter. The newsletter is important because each annual edition adds a new chapter to the SSGSA story that has been written by the new scholars, the scholars who have preceded them, and those who have mentored them and assisted them. The SSGSA newsletter tells the story what this powerful collaboration has done to make the world a better and a brighter place during these dark, turbulent, trying, and challenging times in the world. Because of that, it is my pleasure to say that I hereby release the SSGSA annual letter for 2020. Please read it and remember what Sarsia said. Go forward to preach the gospel of free inquiry, large-hearted tolerations, and a pure morality. So thank you for letting me share this thought and time with you. May God bless each and every one of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank. It was really a very, very, very inspiring speech. I have no words to thank you because I know each time you talk, each time you say a word, everything has a very good meaning. And while I have you here, let me also ask somebody to highlight Taha Umar, who did our annual newsletter. This is Taha Umar, and he is based in Europe doing his education. Can somebody spotlight Taha as well for a second? There you are, Taha. Thank you, Taha, for this newsletter. And thank you, Frank, for sharing your amazing remarks. How thoughtful of you to share your own journey and show how mentorship plays a very important role in one's life. You had a guidance and a kind mentor as well. And you, Frank, are really an inspiring mentor and a guide to hundreds and thousands of people, rich or poor, from all walks of life, in India and outside of India. And I know that personally. Allegorians or not, your heart opens out to everybody. And thousands look up to you as a role model, Frank. Your words give energy, comfort, hope, inspiration, and encouragement. They instill confidence in everybody. They uplift the audience and embolden them. And thank you, Frank, for being who you are, a great man, a kind person, a true Allegorian, one who looks out for others always. Thank you so much, Frank.
Most welcome.
And I also see Ms. Swara Bhaskar has joined from India. So Ms. Bhaskar, welcome to you. Of course, formally you'll be welcomed afterwards, but I'm so glad you were here and you could enjoy the wonderful remarks by my very dear friend, Dr. Frank Islam as well. And now let's go on to one more amazing story of our scholars. Ruchi Dana did a medicine from EMU and MBA from the USA. Ruchi Dana, are you there? Can we have you live and talk about your amazing journey with us? Thank you, Ruchi. There you are, all yours.
Thank you so much. Thanks to Nobel laureate Professor Abhijit Banerjee, Vice Chancellor Professor Tariq Mansoor Saab, Ali Rizvi Saab, and all the organizers, Dr. Frank Islam. I'm really excited to be here. My story began when I was born and raised in the Middle East, and I was born to parents who were both doctors, so they really wanted me to become a doctor, and that was my passion as well. But even as a kid, I used to like break up toys, use the motors, use them to develop something new, innovative, and really like create new innovative models, even with toys. So when I was in my medical college, I got through in the first attempt because of a very good teacher who was my mentor, who gave me a lot of confidence, and I entered the medical college, Aligarh Muslim University, Jawaharlal Nehru Medical College. When I was in the medical college, I was really wanting to work on low-cost medical devices, and there were very, very few professors in our medical college who actually do like innovative stuff in terms of medical devices. And at that time, back in 2008, I found a very good mentor who was a professor who helped me out, and we published a lot of papers, presented a lot of papers. In fact, I was the first student of my batch at JNMCH to actually get a travel grant to go abroad and present papers. So that was really exciting. And I really wanted to pursue that dream of like commercializing of medical devices. But even the best of professors, like back then in 2008 and all, didn't really understand the language of business, even now, and even the startup ecosystem had not developed so well. So I thought of going for an MBA, and I applied to various business schools, and SSGSA stepped in back then and really helped me to get into various business schools. I actually got a full scholarship from MIT, and I remember I went for the MIT Admit Weekend. I left my luggage at Syed Ali Rizvi sir's house because I thought that I'll come back again to pursue my MBA at MIT. But when the Stanford results came and I got selected there, I immediately chose Stanford, mainly because of its focus on entrepreneurship. And also Stanford has a unique Stanford biodesign program. So what happens there is that it's at the intersection of various disciplines. So there are doctors, engineers, lawyers, PhD students, MBA students, everybody comes together to solve for unmet clinical needs. So that program, again, like it was a changing point in my life, and it completely changed and made me pursue my dreams of low-cost medical devices. So currently I'm working on my own startup, which is a low-cost robotic surgery startup for the emerging countries. And I'm proud to say that I'm a co-inventor of several US patents on the use of AI in robotic surgery and the use of sensors in robotic surgery. So it has been a dream come true, but like without SSGSA and without the proper mentorship, I think like I would have been lost. Again, like throughout my life, there were so many changing moments that actually shaped my life. So I'm really happy to be here. And as like Mr. Vasikul said, that it's important to actually send the elevator back down. So I'm trying to do my part in that. So I really encourage for like having more women in the STEM field. I really champion for women empowerment, and I am always ready and eager to mentor young girls who would like to like do something new, specifically in the science field, because that's where I think like I have a good expertise to actually help others. And thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. And thank you, Ms. Swara Bhaskar. It's a pleasure to see you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Ruchi. That was very inspiring, and what a journey. And we're really glad to have students and scholars like you go on to become so successful. So now it is my privilege to welcome the next guest today to deliver our second keynote address. She's not just a critically acclaimed actress, but also a hugely successful commercial star at the box office. She's won multiple awards for her performance in hits like Tanu Weds Manu, Rajana, Prem Ratan Dhan Payo, Veere Di Wedding, Anarkali of Ara, among others. More recently, she's creating waves with her new series on Netflix, Bhag Beanie Bhag. If you haven't watched it yet, please do. It is absolutely outstanding. Before she came to make her mark in the Hindi film industry, she received a bachelor's degree in English literature from the Miranda House and a master's in sociology from JNU. She's also one of the most vocal celebrities on issues of human rights and student activism. In her foreword to Rajdeep Sardesai's latest book, Inqalab, A Decade of Protest, she writes, "To keep at it with our dissent and our protest is a sign that our humanity is alive." Indeed, very well said. Today, she is here to speak to us about the emerging role of students in shaping the new world order. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Swara Bhaskar. Thank you, Swara, so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Rehan. And I must begin by acknowledging what a huge honor it is to be here today at the Sir Syed Global Scholar Awards Convention 2020 with all these very, very eminent and august people, teachers, I think people who have not just got a lot of recognition and honor, but also people who have had like a tremendous influence on generations of young Indians, people like me. They're people here that we have studied, that we have, whose papers we've read. And so you will forgive me if I am absolutely terrified, because allow me to start with a disclaimer, which is that I actually have no business being here. And I must, wherever there is a situation like this where an undeserving person gets a platform and a spotlight, we must thank Bollywood for this honor, because as I said, I have no business sharing a stage, even a virtual one, with a Nobel laureate and the Vice Chancellor of one of India's most eminent universities, and so many other very esteemed people. And interestingly, an audience which I am sure where 100% of the attendees are more qualified and more educated than I am. But if there's anything we learn from world history, from lived experience, and from emerging global orders, it is that life is not fair. So here I am, undeserving, but because I'm an actor, not underconfident. Of course, the real reason I'm here is because Rehan lost a truth and dare bet and thought, what are the ways in which he can sort of put his citizenship at further risk? Rehan? No. I'm just joking. I asked Rehan what he would want me to speak about, and he suggested the emerging role of students in shaping the world order. And I thought to myself, wow, that's a lot of big verbs over there right away: emerging, shaping, lots of big structural concepts like world order. I don't know why the Honorable Nobel laureate did not speak about this, about the world order, and then why it came to an half-educated Bollywood star. But it got me thinking about really when we say world order, what comes to mind? And what came to my mind was a mess, a huge mess, because I think that everywhere in the world today, you have basically a tussle. And this is not to say that that has not been the case with the world in general always. Marx has told us that well, the history is a history of class struggle and so on. We all know those concepts, but I think that we live in a time when that tussle, when that chaos, when that mess is so spotlighted because we have the technology and the means to have eyes everywhere at all times. So I think that there is a way in which our generation feels the chaos of the world more strongly than perhaps other generations before us did. I think this is the organizers. A lot of them are in North America. So I'll just start with talking about what's happening in the US, where for the last many years we have witnessed this unabated spate of police brutalities against Black people, something that would give everyone cause for deep despair. And yet, at the same time, that is precisely what has led to the emergence of, I think, one of the most special solidarity movements of our time, movements for social justice. And I'm, of course, talking about the Black Lives Matter. And this is a movement that has actually ended up playing arguably a fairly critical role in something as huge as the American general election. If you speak about mobilization and you speak about the kind of change of in public discourse that it has led to, and yet 72 million people still voted for Trump. And I don't have an American visa and I have no plans of coming to the US. So I can say that that means to me, I read that as 72 million people voted for racism, for bigotry, and for hate. So it's a weird time, and this is something that is happening actually everywhere in the world. The story of cynical despair, and yet emerging hope. We live in a world where pretty much across the globe there are democratic governments, governments that have the mandate of the people, that are turning towards majoritarian populism, towards normalization of hate and discrimination, where they're indulging in the abuse of institutional structures. And again, it seems legitimate because these are all governments that have the mandate of the people. And this is happening from Turkey to Poland to South America and India to khair, as many of you would say, mashallah. हमारे देश ने तो मेस को जन्म दिया है. हम सब ने मेस में जन्म लिया है. So I think that in India we don't even have to think of examples. I think that we are constantly sort of swinging between despair and hope, and cynicism and a sense of agency constantly. So in this context, I want to actually think about this topic, this idea of the emerging role of students in shaping the world order in a different way. I want to ask all the students who are here today, how, and I also want to ask the teachers actually, and this is something where I'm going to go off on a limb and I'm perhaps going to be a little provocative, and I'm hoping that all of you all will forgive me, and it will not end in with any contempt of court cases on anybody. I want to frame this topic differently. I want to ask, how do you, or how do we as young educated people become relevant players in the huge mess that is the world order, or the importance of the student as a disruptor? And I think that I'm going to speak in the context of India. There I will be making generalizations. These are not going to stand ground in a legal court. It's more really to provoke some kind of a different kind of thinking, because I know that there are a lot of students here who are stepping out of the familiar surroundings of their university, going into new universities. There's a lot of students here who will be stepping into the workforce. There are a lot of students here who would have been involved in what has been happening in India in the last 2 years. And there's a lot of teachers here who must be sick of the students. And I hope the Honorable Vice Chairman of AMU is no longer here. Because I don't want him to think that I am in any way trying to provoke any kind of unrest. Why I'm talking about disruption is because today is the 19th of December. It is the 1-year anniversary of the nationwide protests against CAA NRC laws in India. Today was the day when in a lot of cities, protests happened. These protests became a nationwide movement. But why I'm really talking about that is because these protests began with student mobilization. They had widespread student participation, and they continued to have that student participation throughout the time that movement went on. And a very, very significant portion of the resistance to the CAA NRC project on the ground, on the streets, in peaceful manner, also in public discourse, in the media, came from what students were saying. The art students were making, the song students were singing, the poster students were making. And if you look at the kind of crackdown that took place on the students, especially of Jamia and AMU, but also to a certain degree DU and JNU, I think that whether we have or not, the state certainly has recognized the emerging role of students in shaping resistance to government diktat. I'm mentioning all of this because the more I think of it, the more, and I'm saying at the level of ideas, the more I'm convinced that the greatest value and the abiding relevance of students to a society is in their role as disruptors. If we were to think of the world order in the classic or the classic world order in terms of a classroom, then the student is of most value as the errant backbencher. That student who's sitting in the back and constantly disrupting the uninspired hand-me-down lecture of teachers with irreverent comments. None of those teachers are here. This is in no way a comment at teachers over here. I'm just, again, saying at the level of ideas. And please don't get me wrong. I am not in any way trying to suggest that this disruption should be violent in any way, should be physically violent. That is not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that it is a disruption of it is a disruption at the level of ideas. It is the disruption of a normalized hierarchy. What I'm saying is that the student is relevant as a force of change as long as she disrupts accepted, normalized, status quoist hierarchy and power structures. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because when students become completely subservient to structures of power that they exist within and that all of us exist within, the student basically becomes invisible. Alternatively, if the student chooses to side actively with power and become an agent of that power structure, what ends up happening is that they basically lose their own identity and become tools of the agenda of that power structure. And that power structure could be anything. What comes obviously to my mind, because it happened again just last year, and the example of that, the example of students choosing to become agents of power structure is nowhere better, I think, seen than in what has happened to the ABVP, which is a student organization that actually has had a history of standing up for the rights of students and for leading movements for the rights of students. I can think of the time when Lalu Prasad Yadav was in power in Bihar. The ABVP was very actively involved in student movements at that time, arguing for student rights. And if you look at its role now, especially in the last few years, I'm really sorry if there are any ABVP members here, but it has become reduced to a bunch of utter lumpens who are constantly in the news, basically for acts of vandalism and lumpenism. Some of their members are now missing because they have criminal cases of vandalism against them, vandalism of the universe of their own universities. I'm talking about the January 5th attack on JNU. So I think that when I say that students should be wary of becoming active agents of power structures, that's kind of what I'm talking about. And when I say that students are valuable as disruptors, I'm saying as a force that asks questions, as a force that keeps power structures in check, as a force that does not allow power structures to abuse its power. Now, none of this is actually I think that when we talk about this, we should all, it came to my mind that we must remember that actually, and I'm talking for young Indian students, because I'm assuming that that is what most of this audience or all of this audience comprises of. Nothing in our homes or in our upbringing or in our traditional educational structures actually prepares us for this role, really. Okay. And I'm again not speaking of any individual culture, not speaking of an individual family, not speaking in specific senses, but I think we would all agree that the kind of upbringing culturally we receive in South Asia, especially, or in any society that is traditional, where the family structure is very important, that also is basically feudal in its values still. Whatever our laws, whatever rights our law may give us, but our values are very overwhelmingly feudal and patriarchal. There's actually nothing in what we learn as young children growing up that prepares us to be responsible, peaceful disruptors at the level of ideas, because our values, boys receive values of, being strong, not crying, being breadwinners, being responsible, taking care of their parents, being the earners, and that whole weight of, and then of course being Raja Betas. And girls are basically receiving a value system that is basically preparing them for a life of service and duty to everyone else except themselves. Largely speaking, this is really what traditional value systems are. Young children, this is what we are learning. Then we come to schools where, again, unless we are blessed with good teachers, and I know there are many of them in India, I've been blessed to have many of them, there are many of them here, but still an overwhelming majority in terms of how our educational system is structured is basically we're teaching children to obey and to memorize and to learn by rote and to not ask unnecessary questions. All of us have been through school, and some teachers told us, please sit down and don't ask unnecessary questions. Please don't interrupt unnecessarily. This word, unnecessary, is a word that in whichever language you have studied in, you have heard this in your classroom when you have asked too many questions. We're not learning it in school. You're not going to learn it from traditional religious or more traditional kind of learning, which is odd actually, because almost all the great figures of the religions of our world, almost all the great prophets were basically disruptors in their own right. So it's interesting actually that institutionalized religion will always sort of cover this up. But we still get that lesson from a variety of other places, and that is from folk poetry, from folk art, from the non-conventional, non-institutionalized movements of spirituality and faith, whether it was the Sufi poets or it was the Bhakti poets. You learn that the value of that disruption from literature, from stories, from a mythology. Uh, uh, you learn that lesson most instinctively from the human tendency and need, and what I would like to believe is the most redeeming quality of us as a human race, which is our ability to be kind and empathetic. Uh, I think that what young people in India need to think about is to think about how are we putting our education and our privilege to have had education in a country where a lot of people don't. How are we putting that education to use to becoming relevant in a world where there are all kinds of hierarchies, many of which are unfair, where on a daily basis we will be faced with situations where power structures will show their most venal side, and where oftentimes even governments that are democratically elected, whose job is to govern on the basis of a constitution which oftentimes in many countries would guarantee as much equality as possible in that framework, when those governments themselves sort of abandon that mandate, how then does a young person respond? And I would submit that whatever we do, we must not respond with indifference. And we must not respond with turning our face away. Because then then all of us are basically, we're spitting on our education. We're reducing our education to a piece of paper that will give us a wage. We're reducing our education to its most, frankly, base and irrelevant purpose, which is to put that monthly salary in our banks. And unfortunately, it is how we live and we eat, but actually that is not the purpose of our education, and that is not an attitude that is going to help young people in any way be relevant to anything or any society where they then exist. When I say disruption, I don't mean to suggest that we must all be leading protests and against the companies where we work, or that we must all right now pick up placards and move towards the administration of building of whichever universities where we are studying, or any such thing. What I mean is that when we are walking down the corridors of the offices where we are employed and we see a janitor being mistreated, I hope that that our education serves the purpose of making us stop over there and intervening. I hope that when we are traveling in a public transport and we see an act of hate crime taking place between us, however mild it may be, that our education and whatever we have learned as literate people, I hope that education makes us step up and intervene in that situation. And I want to, some of this stuff sounds very dramatic when we speak about it, but I want to remind everyone here that that young man Muhammad Junaid, who was 15 years old, who got lynched in India in 2017, I think, outside of Delhi on a train in a compartment. There must have been at least 200 other people in that compartment. No one said no. No one said stop. So what I mean is that when we assume that our job as good citizens or our job as students or as young people is to pick up our belongings and quickly rush away to safety, when that becomes the purpose of our education, then we are basically participating in a situation where accountability from society will disappear. And again, I say that it sounds dramatic, but let me remind all of us again that literally in India, we are seeing a rise of, everywhere in the world, but definitely in India, we are seeing a rise in crimes where public participation has gone up in a manner that is absolutely alarming, whether it is Una, whether it is Raj Samand, where a man was burnt alive, uh, whether it is Kathua, whether it is Hathras. So I think that when we think about what is the value of students, we must think of students as people who are invested in the ideals and in the values of the education that we are charting from our books. I think that uh, and I think that it's happening already. It's not like it's not happening. It's happening all around us. I spoke about the participation of the students in the CANRC protests. It's we As we speak, there is a farmers protest that is going on while we speak, and I went there the other day, and I was so struck by the manner in which the young people and the children of these farmers, these young people who have now had to prove that they are educated because of a sort of a very sort of organized media campaign against farmers. It's so inspiring to see these young people trying to shape and engage in what is their own reality. um, there are hilarious instances of how students have acted as disruptors, and I just want to share a very actually sweet incident from, not sweet, it's actually funny incident from JNU last year, where there has been sort of this standoff on the issue of fees. And finally the students have been trying to meet had been trying to meet the VC of JNU for many months, and he had not been meeting them. And finally, as an act of a sort of intervention, disruption, protest, you can identify it as you will, a group of those students went to the Vasant Vihar police thana and lodged a missing persons complaint, saying that the VC is missing. We have not been able to locate him. We are very worried for his safety. And could you please help us find the VC, because we need desperately to talk to him. Nothing violent, totally responsible, totally within the legal framework, and yet holding those in power accountable to what their job and responsibility is. I want to just end very quickly by saying that these are not concepts that are sort of limited to Zoom webinars and to memes on Instagram. The job of being a principled disruptor, and let's coin that term, the job of being a principled disruptor. And let me tell you that there are many very famous and esteemed greats who were principled disruptors. Perhaps for us the most relevant and the greatest is actually Gandhiji. But I think that the job of a principled disruptor is constant. It starts everywhere. And I would like to end by sort of pointing to the most sort of intimate and unfortunate example of normalization of discrimination that is plaguing India today, which is the WhatsApp group message of the family group. And the kind of utter nonsense, fake news, rumors, frankly, misinformation and sometimes stuff that is actually criminally liable that we receive on a daily basis on these WhatsApp groups. And most of us, because we are good children, and this is a point I've made before and gotten into some trouble for, but I will say it again, most of us, because we are good children, we have all been taught good manners by our parents, we all are sanskari bachas, we don't disrupt that conversation. We don't ask our elders, why are you saying this? Because it's not part of our culture, it's not part of good breeding, it's not good etiquette. But I think that if there's any place where we must start to take principled positions, to where we must begin by valuing the lessons and the education that we have had the privilege of learning, it is to start at home. Because at this point in our country, every other home is participating in what will become and what has already led to so much uh, anarchy, so much violence, so much tearing of the social fabric of this country, and that is the normalization of bigotry, of hate, of discrimination. And I'm not pointing fingers to any particular community. I'm not pointing fingers to a particular set of people, because frankly it's happening across the board. So I just want to leave and stop rambling with this thought that the next time you the next time you are in a situation where in the given power structure you can see an abuse of power, however mild, that is taking place in front of you, don't turn your face away. Don't turn your face away, even if it means getting into trouble with your parents, with your teacher, with your boss. I mean, unless you're going to starve and get thrown out of the job, or lose your citizenship, I don't suggest that anyone sort of risks their personal safety. But there are ways to challenge the abuse of power without laying yourself in the line of fire. We don't even do that because we are trained not to. So let's put our education to first untraining that training and actually use the real purpose of education for what it is, which is to, somebody talked about sending the lift down again, which is to participating in society and making a change for the better. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Swara. I mean, that was incredibly powerful, and I can't tell you of it. We've been getting messages and questions coming in from social media, from chat, and it's just exploding right now. And everyone has just so much to say. I mean, incredible, powerful words. Thank you so much. It's impossible to do justice to what you said, but I'm just trying to think about all the themes that you hit and how relevant. The fact that how you turned it on the head of students and said, how do educated people become principled disruptors? And I think your point about not being taught in school to ask questions, not being taught in school to really question normalized hierarchy, as you described it. The first question I have coming in from the audience is, do you think there's too much focus on science, technology, engineering, medicine? Is it time for students to start thinking about a political career as a career option? Is politics a career option to become that principled disruptor?
Well, you're speaking to a liberal arts student who failed in science in class 9 and in math at a later stage. So I'm not a particularly, but I passed in the end. I just want to put that out there. But I actually think that two things very quickly, Rehan. One, that I think that in India especially, there is a huge misconception of what politics is. The moment we say politics, we immediately only think of electoral politics. All right. And so everyone, and there is this accepted thing, and I, of course, come from an industry which is, prides itself at being non-political, which is that, people are like, no, politics is dirty. Politics is dirty. And I just keep wanting to turn around and say, yeah, well, politics is also what won us our freedom, guys. Politics is not just, the Bihar Chunav and the Uttar Pradesh Chunav and the whichever MCD Chunav and Nagar Nigam Chunav. That's not what politics is. Politics is actually is when we engage with the power structures that surround us at all times. Politics is in our own houses when our dad comes home and only the daughter is expected to get up and go and bring water or bring chai, but the son never gets up. And this is not to say that that we should not serve our fathers and uncles and elders tea or chai or whatever. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that politics actually is everywhere, because politics is basically an engagement and the relationship between people in structures of hierarchy and power. So that's one. Secondly, I don't think it's, I agree with you when you say that I think what happens is that we think of education only in terms of degrees. So everything is compartmentalized. So if you're studying engineering, then you are only sort of in your engineering books. When you're doing your MBA, you're only in your whatever CAT exam, medicine, whatever, everything else, biology. And actually, it is very, very easy to go through a degree focusing only on your field and knowing nothing else about what is happening around you, so that you go into a movie hall, you watch a Padmavat or a Tanha Ji, and you're like, oh, Musalman to bahut kharab the, haan? Unhone kitna ganda kaam kiya, because you have nothing in your degree has made you realize that there is a difference between historical fiction, between the fictionalization of history, between a historical film, between a documentary, and between recorded history. So what I'm saying is that I completely agree with you that education, when we talk about education, at the from the primary school level right through your higher education, we just have to have a more composite approach. And I'm really sorry to say this, but frankly, all you engineers and all you doctors and all you science kids out there, you really need to start reading the newspapers. You need to have some idea of also of don't believe, firstly get off Quora. Okay, that is not where you're getting any accurate information from. And please, use all your scientific temperament to, apart from learning formulas, also check what is the background of the website that you are reading. Just understand, just read 3-4 other articles that are published on the website, so you get a larger picture of our society. I think and this is actually, it's very relevant that you asked this, because this is precisely why education is such an area of conflict, especially in India. Why is it that every government that comes to power tries to rewrite history, especially governments that come with ideological agendas? Why is Indian history it's a battlefield? Why is the teaching of a history, and why are history textbooks like these battlefields where subjects are being pulled out and characters are being removed and other people are being put inside? It's precisely because of this, because the social sciences and the liberal arts and history is what actually contributes so deeply to our everyday beliefs, to our everyday common sense, to our everyday biases and prejudices. So I absolutely agree with you that we need to have a more composite approach to education. And I'm really sorry, but all you engineering boys and girls and medicine, and I know you guys work very hard, I know you go for lots of tuitions, you have tough exams to take, please start reading the newspaper.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That was really good. We'll start picking up some papers. I have one final question for you very quickly. And the reason I'm asking this is because it's come through from multiple different people in multiple different ways. So very quickly, you're fearless. You speak your mind, and you speak your mind without, any care in the world, which is amazing. The question people are asking and students want to know, how do you balance that fine line between, speaking your mind and progressing and not, risking your professional life and personal life? If you can just very quickly speak to some students on that and give them some confidence to do that.
Okay, so firstly, I'm not fearless. Most of the times, I am in a state of constant anxiety and panic as to what is the fresh trouble that I have gotten into, and what will be the fallout of what it is that I have done. My parents are poor things. I think I have turned both my parents' entire heads white with worry, because they are constantly, because they're like, how can this be a real thing कि हमें ये डर लग रहा है कि हमारी बेटी जेल जा सकती है. मतलब हम ऐसे respectable government servants हैं, like how is this a real fear for us? But jokes aside, I think that again, I just have to firstly just confess that there is no credit to me for the fact that I'm fearless. It is completely for two reasons. One, that my parents, from my very childhood, gave me the greatest gift that any parents can give to their children, which is to make the child believe that whatever happens to you, we are right here. You can always come home. It doesn't matter what happens. We will be there for you. This house will be there. Our doors will be open for you. And I think that it seems, again, dramatic, but when you go out into the real world, into the adult world, and you're, basically just dying because there are so many like mad choices that you have to make, and you're hit in the face with so many things you didn't even know about, just to know that you have someplace to go home to, it just gives you a kind of, that is actually where my fearlessness comes from. That's one. Two, I think the fact that I'm educated, the fact that I am not that I have, because I have a master's degree and a bachelor's degree, I feel like I can get a job however bad the economy is, and however high berozgari is in the last 45 years. But I, at least when I came to Bombay 10 years ago, I knew that I was employable in some way or the other. So I knew that I could earn a living even if this crazy dream of Bollywood dream of mine didn't work out. So that gave me a confidence to basically say no, because and not do things that I didn't want to do, and that could be anything. The third thing really is, and I would say this to everyone, is that look, we're taught to be scared because it's again, fear is one of the most basic tactics of control. Parents do it to children, religion does it to its devotees, institutionalized religion does it to its devotees, governments do it to citizens. So fear is basically a tool of social control, and social control is important in some sense because you want to have a civilized society. But fear is not a good emotion to base your decisions on. Nothing good can come from fear. And I'll say this as an actor because we work with the body and I'm trained as a dancer. Do you know that how we show fear, what is the body language for fear as per the Natya Shastra, or as per the traditional understanding of how emotions are emoted? I'm sorry I'm doing this, but so every time I'm in pajamas, sorry about that. But every time you have to show fear, this is what you do. You crouch, you close yourself in. Every classical dance form which shows fear will show fear like this. Anytime you watch a film, you see how actors act when they're scared. It's all about just turning into nothing. It's making yourself invisible, just crumpling. That is the exact opposite of what growth is, because anything that should take you forward should be something that allows you to spread, to grow, to open up. So for me, fear is just the worst thing to take a decision on. It's a good reason not to commit a crime, but it's the worst emotion to take a life decision on. So I would just say to everyone out there, problematize fear. Just problematize the notion of fear, and then you will, I think, be liberated from a lot of what plagues us and doesn't allow us to come to clear decisions, basically. So that's really how I approach this issue. And frankly, as far as the fine balance between damages that you have to pay, and between the rewards that we seek, I think that if you are operating from a place of conviction, then you will be willing to bear a few losses. And I just want to say that I'm not the only person in this place. The people who've taken stands are not the only people in their place. People have paid a price, and sometimes very extreme, from the time of Socrates. Okay, and of course, I'm not suggesting that any of us drink poison, but just again, throwing two names: Muhammad Ali, the world's greatest boxer. He, at the height of his career, was banned for 3.5 years from boxing because he refused to be drafted into the American military and participate in the Vietnam War, because he saw it. He was a principal disruptor. He said, I have not, why should I participate in the killing of Vietnamese people? They did no wrong to me. And he turned the whole question upon American society by talking about racism. He never recovered his form when he came back. But how do we remember him today? We still remember him as the greatest boxer in the world. Second example, closer home, Majroo Sultanpuri ji. Majroo Sultanpuri Saab spent 1.5 years, I think 11 months or 1 year and 11 months, I can't remember, in jail in Bombay for a nazm that he wrote against Nehru, because he was criticizing at some mill workers event, he was criticizing Nehru's actually NAM policy, because he felt that Nehru was ignoring farmers and, you know, too involved in like foreign trips. He wrote this poem, and which ended actually with a very provocative line, which was "Mar le saathi jaane na paaye." And the then governor of Bombay told him to apologize, and he said, "I will not." They slapped him with a sedition case and jailed him. And Raj Kapoor and Balraj Sahni Saab and so many people kept coming to Majroo Saab and saying, "Please apologize, bol do yaar, sorry, bol do yaar, sorry." And he refused. And he stayed in jail for 11 months. I know this because Majroo Saab's son told me the story. Raj Kapoor would send monthly stipend to the family because there was nobody earning with Majroo Saab in jail. And when Majroo Saab came back, work resumed as normal. And today we remember Majroo Saab for those amazing songs that he has written. And this only adds to frankly his integrity as an artist. So I think that we should also stop looking at, you know, oh my god, I'll get a scolding from my mother, from my teacher, I'll get thrown out of class, I'll get a show cause notice, I might be suspended for a few days, I might get in trouble with my boss. Life is very long and history is even longer. So, you know, I think that sometimes that's also a good way to look at things.
Thank you so much. That was really awesome, and spoken so eloquently like a true artist. So really appreciate your time with us, Swara. Thank you so much for sharing your words. I think it was really very inspiring, and we are hoping to stay engaged with you and with leaders of youth activism, so we can continue to work together to build and nurture leaders for our society tomorrow. Thank you again for your time. And I will.
Who were on this panel, I hope I didn't say anything offensive. I have the greatest respect. My mother is a teacher, and I think that I have been blessed with some very good teachers who were themselves principal disruptors in their own places and in their own time. And I'm sure all of you have had a very, very foundational effect on the students who have been blessed to have learned from you all.
I echo your words. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with us. And I'm going to hand it over to Ali Rizvi Saab to say the word of thanks and the next steps, please. Ali bhai.
Thank you, Rehan, for this session of yours. She spoke her mind out. We are so happy. We enjoyed every single word which touched our hearts. Thank you, Swara, for doing that work really for us. Thank you. And you may not know, but we met your father, Dr. Frank Islam, who's on the call today. He and I met your father in Delhi at our recent, I think last hit was.
Oh.
Yeah. But thank you. And now we want to pass on the torch of our next leadership. So I want you all to please help me and join me in welcoming our new chairman of the SSGSA program. And this is Salman bin Kashif. Salman bin Kashif, as you can see, he is a PhD scholar, Department of Chemical and Biomedical Engineering, in South Carolina at Clemson University. An amazing person, like all our scholars. And he has given so much to the program. And now for the next 2 years, he'll be leading our program. Salman bin Kashif, please, some live words from you.
Thank you, Ali bhai. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. And thank you for staying this far in the event. It will be a great honor for me to serve as the chair of the organization that has played a huge role in my career and of many other students like me. SSGSA has been an incredible success story as an alumni organization. We are not perfect. In fact, not even close to where we want to be. However, we always strive to improve ourselves. The action points we are actively working upon includes improvement in the application portal, increasing our outreach, and most importantly, stepping up our efforts in the core function, that is mentorship. Backed by a strong donor and volunteer base, which we always seek to expand, we are hopeful of creating greater impact in coming years, inshallah. And the sole motivation behind it, as it has always been, is to help students realize their full potential. So thank you so much again for entrusting me with this job, and I hope to do justice with it.
Thank you and welcome, leader. Welcome, Chairman Salman bin Kashif. We will be behind you always together. Thank you. And friends, this was an amazing program, and none of the program we did on the last 14, 15 years, all this journey, what Rehan mentioned earlier in the inaugural session, it could be possible without the support of many people around the world, individuals, mentors, advisors, people who guided us, who helped us with resources. We just can't name all of them. There's a huge list. Can you please somebody show the list of mentors and advisors, please, on the screen? And there are so many people I'd like to mention. Well, before this, the mentors and advisors slide. So this is, yeah, there you are. So these are people who have shared our journey. कोई भी काम हो, बड़ा हो, छोटा हो, उसमें बहुत सारे हाथ लगते हैं, सैकड़ों लोगों का मसीहा लगता है उसके साथ में. ये हमारे कुछ लोगों के नाम हैं जो हमें आप लोग पढ़ रहे हैं स्क्रीन के ऊपर. ये लोगों ने शुरू से आखिर तक के हमारे साथ में ताउन किया है, सपोर्ट किया इस प्रोग्राम के लिए. बिना इनके काम के हमारे ये काम यहाँ तक नहीं पहुँचता. जो आपने आज कहानी सुनी स्कॉलर्स की, वो यहाँ तक नहीं पहुँचती. I just want to name a few of the people who were there at the inception of the program. खास तौर से Professor Muhammad Salimuddin Sahab, who was with us from day one on the program. Then Dr. Shahid Jamil, from day one he was with us. Professor Suhail Sabir Sahab, again, professor at EMU. From the very first day, he joined hands and he was with us, and he is with us even today. And of course, Asadullah Khan Sahab from EMU as well. बहुत सारे नाम हैं, किस-किस के नाम पढ़े हम लोग, लेकिन this is a journey we are all sharing together, and we're glad that they all are with us, because बिना इनके हम कोई काम नहीं कर सकते थे. और एक शेर इन सबके लिए कि वो जो दरो बाम की जीनत है उन्हीं से मिलिए, वो जो दरो बाम की जीनत है उन्हीं से मिलिए, मैं तो बुनियाद का पत्थर हूँ, नजर क्या आऊं. तो ये सब बुनियाद के पत्थर हैं जो सामने नहीं है इस वक्त ये, लेकिन इनका बहुत ताउन रहा है और तभी हम यहाँ तक पहुँच पाए हैं. Moving on to the next slide, if you can show the list of donor organizations. हर काम में हाथों के साथ में कुछ जेबें भी चाहिए होती हैं, कुछ पैसा चाहिए होता है, कुछ फाइनेंशियल सपोर्ट चाहिए होता है. हमारे बीच में ये तमाम organizations हैं who have stood with us, supported us all these years with financial muscle. और ये काम इनका नहीं होता तो भी हम यहाँ तक नहीं पहुँच पाते. The associations of EMU alumni in North America, of Atlanta, then the Association of Chicago, EMU Association of Chicago, Houston, Texas, New England, and of course the Aligarh Education Endowment Fund and Indian Muslim Relief and Charities. Uske Mazur Ghori Sahab, we thank all of them. And apart from this, all the hundreds of individual donors and supporters, छोटा हो, बड़ा हो, कम पैसे दिए हो, ज़्यादा दिए, सभी का साथ बहुत रहा है. और आज बेइंतहा खुशी की बात है कि हमारे बीच में हमारे अपने हरदिल अजीज डॉक्टर फ्रैंक इस्लाम साहब भी तशरीफ लाए थे, और उन्होंने ये वादा किया है कि हमारे साथ भी वो सपोर्ट करेंगे. एंड वी लुक फॉरवर्ड टू एंगेजिंग विद हिम एंड एवरी सिंगल स्टेप ऑफ द वे, बिकॉज ही इज अ मैन हु कीप्स हिज वर्ड्स. और इसके बाद में जैसे हमारी रस्म होती है, वी हैव आवर एएमयू तराना. ये तराना खास इसलिए है कि इसको एएमयू की तराना टीम ने नहीं, हमारी अपने जो स्कॉलर्स हैं उनकी टीम ने प्रिपेयर किया है. बहुत सारी कोशिशों के साथ में ये दुनिया के तमाम लोग. लेट्स लिसन टू दिस एएमयू तराना एंड प्लीज डोंट गो अवे, बिकॉज आफ्टर दिस हमारे पास में एक बहुत ही अच्छा प्रोग्राम मुनक्किद है, बज़्म सुखन, जिसको लीड करेंगे हमारे पास्ट चेयर अली मुजफ्फर साहब. और इसमें याद रखिएगा कि कुछ लोग जो ज्वाइन कर रहे हैं वो इंडिया से हैं, तो इंडिया में इस वक्त रात के कोई 12 बज रहे होंगे, 12:30 बज रहे होंगे. सो विद दिस लेट्स हियर दिस वंडरफुल तराना, द एएमयू तराना.
मेरा चमन है मेरा चमन, मैं अपने चमन का बुलबुल हूँ। सरशार निगाहे नरगिस हूँ, पाबस्तगे सुए सुम्बुल हूँ। चमन ये मेरा चमन, ये मेरा चमन है मेरा चमन, मैं अपने चमन का बुलबुल हूँ। जो ताक़े हरम में रोशन है, वो शमा यहाँ भी जलती है। दश्त के गोशे गोशे से एक जुए हयात उबलती है। ये दश्त जुनू दीवानों का, ये बज़्म वफा परवानों की। ये दश्त जुनू दीवानों का, ये बज़्म वफा परवानों की। ये शहर तरब रूमानों का, ये खुल्द बरी अरमानों की। फितरत ने सिखाई है हमको उफ़्ताद यहाँ परवाज़ यहाँ। फितरत ने सिखाई है हमको उफ़्ताद यहाँ परवाज़ यहाँ। गाए हैं वफ़ा के गीत यहाँ, छेड़ा है जुनू का साज यहाँ। ये मेरा चमन है मेरा चमन, मैं अपने चमन का बुलबुल हूँ। इस बज़्म में तेरें खींची हैं, इस बज़्म में सागर तोड़े हैं। इस बज़्म में आँख बिछाई है, इस बज़्म में दिल तक जोड़े हैं। हर शाम है शाम मिस्र यहाँ, हर शब है शबे शिराज यहाँ। हर शाम है शाम मिस्र यहाँ, हर शब है शबे शिराज यहाँ। है सारे जहाँ का सोज यहाँ, और सारे जहाँ का साज यहाँ। रात का बोसा देने को 100 बार झुका आकाश यहाँ। रात का बोसा लेने को 100 बार झुका आकाश यहाँ। खुद आँख से हमने देखी है बातिल की शिकस्ते फाश यहाँ। ये मेरा चमन ये मेरा चमन। फिर यहाँ से उठेगा वो सार जहाँ पर बरसेगा, हर जू रवां पर बरसेगा, हर कोह गरा पर बरसेगा, हर सर्व समन पर बरसेगा, हर दश्त दमन पर बरसेगा, खुद अपने चमन पर बरसेगा, गैरों के चमन पर बरसेगा, हर शहर तरफ पर गरजेगा, हर कसर तरफ पर गड़केगा। ये अब्र हमेशा बरसा है, ये अब्र हमेशा बरसेगा, ये अब्र हमेशा बरसा है, ये अब्र हमेशा बरसेगा, ये अब्र हमेशा बरसा है, ये अब्र हमेशा बरसेगा, बरसेगा बरसेगा बरसेगा।
And now for the Bazm Sukhan, Ali Muzaffar, all yours. Thank you to the amazing program. Please stay on.
शुक्रिया अली भाई, और इतनी खूबसूरत महफिल है, और मैं जानता हूँ कि काफ़ी लेट हो गया है, बट खुशी में वक्त का पता ही नहीं चलता। सो होपफुली आपको अगले कुछ 20 मिनट भी आपके साथ हम लेंगे और उसी खुशी लम्हों के साथ बज़्म सुखन में चलेंगे। तो अगर स्लाइड सलमान और वसीकुल आप मुझे हेल्प कर सके तो।
Sure.
तो आदाब, आइए इस खूबसूरत तराने से सजी और मुस्कुराती महफिल को बज़्म सुखन में ले जाते हैं, और जो कि इस कन्वेंशन का अंजाम भी है, और आने वाले अच्छे दिनों और नए साल के उम्मीद और खुशी के गीतों, अल्फाजों, गज़लों से शुरुआत भी। जब बात हम उम्मीद, यादों, खुशियों की करते हैं तो अलीग से भरी इस महफिल में अलीगढ़ की यादें सबसे बढ़कर दिलों पे राज करती हैं। उन्हीं अलीगढ़ की यादों से जुड़ी हैं गज़लों की शामें, बैतबाजी, उर्दू से भरे लफ्ज़ों की शामें, और इजारे के फ़न और हुनर की शामें। आज बज़्म सुखन में हम अगले 20 मिनट तक या उससे भी कम, जैसे भी आपका वक्त मिले, तक इन्हीं शामों को यादों से अपने दिल को भिगाने की कोशिश करेंगे। हमारे साथ अलीगढ़ के मशहूर शायर और गुलकार जॉनी फॉस्टर साहब हैं, और साथ साथ SSGSA स्कॉलर भी इस बज़्म में गीत, गज़ल या अपने अशार पेश करेंगे। मेरे लिए और मेरे जैसे बहुत स्टूडेंट्स के लिए अलीगढ़ की यादों में के अपने दिलों से, अपने हुनर से, अपने गीतों से, गज़लों से, इल्म फ़न से जॉनी फॉस्टर ने हमारे दिल में बहुत राज किया है। और मेरे लिए खासकर जैसे चुंगी है, लाइब्रेरी की गलियां, ऑडिटोरियम में जब मैं लाइब्रेरी में बैठा करता था तभी मुझे याद है कि जॉनी फॉस्टर सर की आवाज़ कैंडी ऑडिटोरियम से आवाज़ आती थी, कुछ इवेंट मैं अक्सर खींचा चला जाता था। जॉनी फॉस्टर साहब के बारे में मैं ज़्यादा नहीं कहूँगा, पर जब भी उनसे पूछता हूँ और इस बात में पूछा कि सर क्या कुछ बताएं अपने बारे में, तो बड़ी सुलझी और सजे शब्दों में कहते हैं, बस मेरा इतना तारुफ ठीक, मैं अमीर के खेत का मजदूर हूँ। सो आइए सुनते हैं जॉनी फॉस्टर सर की पहली गज़ल, जो कि शहर अलीगढ़ है। और इसके बाद हम इसी इवेंट में जॉनी फॉस्टर सर के बाद हम फिर SSGSA स्कॉलर्स की एक पोएम को सुनेंगे, और फिर उस पे उनको बुलाएंगे और उनके पोएम से उन्हीं से रिसाइट करवाएंगे। तो आज पहले सुनते हैं शहर अलीगढ़। तो if anybody can, Salman, if you want to play the video.
और यहाँ की तालीम की बदौलत हमारे शहर अलीगढ़ का नाम आज पूरी दुनिया में मशहूर है। यहाँ की गंगा जमनी तहजीब और साझा संस्कृति की मिसाल पूरी दुनिया में दी जाती है। एक दो बंद मेरी एक पुरानी नज़्म है, देखिएगा। सैयद का हसी ख्वाब है ये शहर अलीगढ़, सैयद का हसी ख्वाब है ये शहर अलीगढ़, तहजीब की किताब है ये शहर अलीगढ़, सैयद का हसी ख्वाब है ये शहर अलीगढ़। जो भी यहाँ पे आया मुकद्दर संवर गया, तालीम की दौलत लिए वो अपने घर गया, अपने शहर का और वतन का नाम फिर करे, खिदमत के जज्बे से वो अपना काम फिर करे, काम फिर करे। बरसेगा बेहिसाब है ये शहर अलीगढ़, सैयद का हसी ख्वाब है ये शहर अलीगढ़। उर्दू के साथ हिंदी संस्कृत का मान है, कश्मीरी मलयालम का भी मन में समान है, अंग्रेजी फारसी बंगाली अरबी शोबे हैं, पंजाबी तेलुगु तमिल मराठी पढ़ते हैं, मराठी पढ़ते हैं। खुशबू भरा गुलाब है ये शहर अलीगढ़, सैयद का हसी ख्वाब है ये शहर अलीगढ़, शहर अलीगढ़।
थैंक यू सलमान। जॉनी फॉस्टर सर, अगर आप हमें सुन रहे हैं तो बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया अपनी ये नज़्म शेयर करने के लिए। और आपका मैं जानता हूँ कि आप हमें सुन रहे हैं अटेंडीज़ में, और आपको हम सुनते आए हैं। कई स्टूडेंट्स यहाँ पे मुस्कुरा रहे होंगे या इस गीत को अगर पहली बार सुना होगा, और आपकी इस वाणी से मैंने सुना है पहले, मुझे बहुत पसंद आया था। तो बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया जॉनी फॉस्टर सर आपका इस नज़्म को शेयर करने के लिए।
Let us call Mr. Shujat Badr, and he will be reciting his self-composed poetry. So Shujat?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay, yeah. So I sometimes indulge myself in occasional writing. I sometimes write small verses. So here's my attempt, one of my attempts. So I wrote this back in 2015 when I was sitting outside my apartment, and it was a clear sky that day. Like it was like an evening time at about like 8 p.m. And जो ही मैंने ऊपर देखा आसमान की तरफ, तो एक अजीब सा एक connection feel हुआ मुझे. I felt like as if divine was like speaking to me in some different ways. So within a minute or something, I penned this down. I like, it was a peak experience. I can't explain it. I have tried to explain it here, but so I'll read it in front of you. I hope you like it. So it's called The Night Sky, and you'll understand it as I go along reading it. I seek you not in the ink consumed in your praise. So I'm talking to the divine here. I don't find him in all the praises that men have written about him. So I seek you not in the ink consumed in your praise. I seek you not in the songs of your love. I seek you not in the thread of sanctity. I seek you not in the fire of holiness. I seek you not in temples, mosques, and churches. Not in million ways men worship you. Oh Lord, the night sky is such a beauty. So एक अजीब सी अपील थी उस नाइट स्काई की, और वो जो ट्विंकलिंग स्टार्स थे उस पूरे फर्मामेंट पे, एक अजीब सी कॉलिंग थी उसमें. I forgot about all the imagined conceptions of God and divine at that point, and all I could see was just like as if God was speaking to me through that firmament. And this is my attempt to portray that in verse. So I hope everybody liked it, and thank you.
Thanks a lot, Shujat.
वक्त का तगाजा करते हुए मैं जानता हूं कि हिंदुस्तान में अभी काफी देर हो रहा है। मैं चाहूंगा कि SSGSA स्कॉलर्स और हमारे टीम मेंबर्स अपने एक नज़म और एक पोएम शेयर करें। और मैं अगला जो स्कॉलर हैं और टीम मेंबर भी हैं और अभी खासा जुबैर भाई जो ऑपरेशन टीम मेंबर हैं, उनको इस शेर के साथ दावत देना चाहूँगा कि जब भी कश्ती मेरे सैलाब में आ जाती है, जब भी कश्ती मेरे सैलाब में आ जाती है, माँ दुआ करती हुई ख्वाब में आ जाती है। जुबैर भाई की ये नज़्म माँ पर है और मैं उनको दावत देना चाहूँगा कि इस महफिल में आके बज़्म सुखन में अपनी नज़्म को पेश करें। बाब फिरदौस। जुबैर भाई।
ये अम्मी पे लिखी है मैंने, और मैं एक जगह ऐसी घूमने गया था तो एक बहुत हसीन मंजर देखा था, एक बहुत वादियां देखी थी, तो उसको लेके फिरदौस के ऊपर, फिरदौस जन्नत को कहते हैं। सो जैसे कहा जाता है अम्मी जो हैं वो जन्नत का दरवाजा होती हैं, सो वैसे ही है बाबे फिरदौस कि आज फिरदौस के कतरे को देखा, जब नजर को नजारों में गिरफ्त होते देखा, जब ख्याल की जद को कमजोर होते देखा, जब वक्त को कुदरत के आगे बेबस होते देखा, जब खामोशी की आवाज में मदहोश होके देखा, जब झुकी निगाहों से पूरा जहान देखा, तब एक कतरे से झांकती कायनात को देखा, पूछा जब कतरे से दरिया का रास्ता, सोचा कोहे तूर की तिजारत या विरदे काबा होगा, तन्हा सजदों में या हुर्फ कुरान में छुपा होगा, मोमिन के ईमान में या रोजों की शान में होगा। तब कतरे की दबी आवाज से एक सदा आई, अरे तू तो अशरफुल मखलूकात है, फिर फिरदौस का पता क्यों पूछता है, छोड़ अपने वजूद के जरिए को, मस्जिद और मजारों में क्या ढूंढता है, लौहे महफूज जिसकी कौल पे राजी हो, जिसकी फरियाद से फरिश्तों में आजारी हो, हश्र भी जिसकी सूरत ना भुला पाए, जिसके बोसे से रूह को सुकून आए, कदमों में जिसकी दोनों जहान आए, अरे नादान है तू जो उसके वजूद को ना समझ पाए। That's it.
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया जुबैर भाई, बहुत ही खूबसूरत नज़म, बहुत ही खूबसूरत नज़म। आपने हमारे महफिल में हमें जब यहाँ आए थे, हम लोग SSGSA स्कॉलर्स साथ साथ मिलते हैं और एक दूसरे से शेयर करते हैं अपनी लिखी हुई चीज़ें, और उसमें जब हम लोगों को सुनाया गया था तो हमने जुबैर भाई को और शुजात ने और सबने बोला था कि भाई यू हैव टू रीड दिस प्लेटफॉर्म। थैंक यू जुबैर भाई फॉर शेयरिंग दिस, रियली ब्यूटीफुल। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। मैं आखिर में एक और SSGSA स्कॉलर जो कि इस साल के SSGSA स्कॉलर हैं, उरुसा अनवर, उनको दावत देना चाहूँगा और अपनी छोटी सी एक गज़ल लिखी उन्होंने, नज़म कहूँगा मैं, लिखी उन्होंने, और ये कल रात ही को उरुसा ने लिखा। जो वो पहले एक नज़म पढ़ने वाली थी, लेकिन उन्होंने बताया कि इस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में अली भाई मैं लिखना चाहती हूँ, तो मैंने बोला कि बिल्कुल आप लिख सकती हैं। तो इस बात से बुलाना चाहूँगा कि उठो ये मंजरे शब्ताब देखने के लिए, उठो ये मंजरे शब्ताब देखने के लिए, कि नींद शर्त नहीं ख्वाब देखने के लिए। उरुसा अगर आप कॉल पे हैं तो प्लीज अनम्यूट योरसेल्फ।
Okay, great. Thank you so much for having me. And when I was in bachelor's, I read Shakespeare's Sonnet 18, and it ended with the couplet, "So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee." So in these two lines, Shakespeare, he expresses the desire to become immortal through poetry, through knowledge, and he is still alive today amongst us. So this poem is to becoming immortal through knowledge. I live in a circle so I can practice infinity. Like a snake biting its own tail, I consume myself to birth someone who knows slightly more than the one whose life was sacrificed. There are things I know and other things that I don't. But the fear of not knowing what I don't know is what keeps me up at night, slithering, slowly finding its way into my head until I can hear nothing but hissing of the one who whispers, learn. So I live in a circle to seek knowledge until I know everything so that I can become infinite. Thank you.
थैंक यू सो मच उरुसा। और यही एक चीज़ जो शायद इको करती है पूरे के पूरे कन्वेंशन में, नॉलेज और इज अ सर्किल। जब आपको लगता है कि आप एक इवेंट पे पहुंच जाते हैं, फिर आपको लगता है कि नहीं, आई एम बैक टू द स्क्वायर वन, आई स्टिल नीड टू लर्न मोर। और हायर एजुकेशन से और SSGSA की जर्नी से हमें ये अंदाजा हुआ है कि स्कॉलर्स आर इकोइंग द सेम मैसेजेस। सो मैं चाहूँगा सलमान बिन काशिफ, इफ यू कैन हेल्प मी टू प्ले अ वेरी स्मॉल वीडियो जिससे हम क्लोज करेंगे ये छोटी सी महफिल को। और वो जॉनी फॉस्टर सर की एक वीडियो है जो नॉलेज पे, अगेन इल्म हुनर पे हमें बताती है, हमें दावत देती है। तो सलमान, इफ यू कैन हेल्प मी प्ले दैट वीडियो। एंड उस वीडियो को प्ले करने से पहले मैं एक बात कहना चाहूँगा नॉलेज के बारे में, इल्म के बारे में, कि हयात लेके चलो, कायनात लेके चलो, हयात लेके चलो, कायनात लेके चलो, चलो तो सारे ज़माने को साथ लेके चलो। तो छोटी सी नज़्म है और बहुत ही खूबसूरत है, मुझे बहुत पसंद आया था ये जब मैंने सुना था। तो और ख़ासकर जॉनी फॉस्टर सर श्योर की कॉल पे होंगे, तो वो भी सुन के मैंने ये पिक किया उनकी नज़्म जो उन्होंने मुझसे शेयर किया था। सलमान, प्लीज़ गो अहेड।
इल्म हुनर की खुशबू वाले और मोहब्बत वाले हैं, सर सैयद के इस गुलशन के सारे फूल निराले हैं। इल्म हुनर की 100 बरसों में दुनिया को नायाब सितारे सौंपे हैं, नायाब सितारे सौंपे हैं। छा जाएंगे जहाँ रहेंगे, उस मिट्टी में ढाले हैं, सर सैयद के इस गुलशन के सारे फूल निराले हैं। इल्म हुनर की तालीमी तहरीक से बढ़ के कोई भी तहरीक नहीं, कोई भी तहरीक नहीं, जो भी इसमें हिस्सेदार हैं वो सब किस्मत वाले हैं। सर सैयद के इस गुलशन के सारे फूल निराले हैं, सर सैयद के इस गुलशन के सारे फूल निराले हैं।
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया जॉनी फॉस्टर सर आपका इस गीत को शेयर करने के लिए। सलमान, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया, तुमने हेल्प किया यहाँ पे। हमने टेक्निकल कमियों को दूर करते हुए इस इवेंट को आखिर में अंजाम देने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। और आखिर में 2 पोएम और थी, बट मैं जानता हूँ कि रात काफ़ी हो गई है और वो आप गज़लों और शामों की महफिल सज चुकी है, और इसी के साथ हम इसको अंजाम भी देते हैं कि अल्लामा इकबाल का एक शेर है जिससे हम बज़्म सुखन को ख़त्म करेंगे और आने वाले कल को एक उम्मीद से और एक इस सोच से शुरू करेंगे कि अभी हमारे सामने आसमां और भी है। Salman, if you want to share your screen, we'll just close the session and share the last slide. सितारों से आगे जहां और भी अभी इश्क के इम्तिहान और भी तो शाहीन है परवाज है काम तेरा तो शाहीन है परवाज है काम तेरा तेरे सामने आसमां और भी है बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया अस्सलाम वालेकुम नमस्ते सत श्री अकाल आदाब हिंदुस्तान में आप सभी को इस कॉल पे इतनी देर तक रहने के लिए और कन्वेंशन को हमारे साथ एंड करने के लिए बज़्म सुखन से बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया शब खैर खुदा हाफिज
Okay, we are ending the call here.
All right, I'll close the call now. Thank you everyone for attending, and we look forward in the next event.
Thank you.
Thank you.